Hi guys, thank you for joining the live stream. I hope the audio is coming fine. So today we have a very interesting podcast to get to. It was hosted by someone called Shoaib something. I don't follow Scroll all that much, so I don't know his exact name. He hosted a person called an Ambedkarite author and a sociologist uh, uh, whose name is Ravikant Kisana. Now, the main reason I got interested in the video and the interview was because finally, though they occasionally do, some leftist Ambedkarites are criticizing Bengal's Bhadralok culture as well. Not culture really, at least the Bhadraloks themselves, for being ever dominant everywhere, while saying casteism doesn't exist in West Bengal, while it exists in UP only. But all the metrics of caste in terms of representation of high castes, upper castes in positions of power, and representation of lower castes in only positions of no power or political violence, etc. By those metrics, West Bengal is as casteist as any other state, if not more. There are many ways to argue that. What turned out to be more interesting was that they changed the title of their video. That's what got me more intrigued. And actually, Academic Man will join us later in the live stream to discuss his views as well. And he got into a bit of controversy with our own viewers a few days back, so we will address that. Why is he so elitist? Why does he obsess over English-speaking academics so much? We have addressed these problems many times during the beginning days of Academic Man's or another academic who used to be involved with our podcast back in those days. So, but we will address them once again. So let me show you what was exactly the name of the video. Okay, this is pretty interesting. This is very funny. So this is the screenshot. Okay, this is a screenshot from my WhatsApp, which I had sent to Academic Man. Okay, so when the video first came out, it was called Bhadralokes think they are enlightened, but Bengal among the most casteist states, says Ambedkarite author. Okay, this was the title of the video. Okay, this was the link that I sent, and this is the caption that came about on its own. And now see what is the name of the video. This is fascinating. Now it's an abstract criticism of Savarna women. Savarna women talk feminism but become Savarna when suitable. Ambedkarite author Ravikant Kisana. Why now? Why did that title get changed? I think too many Bengali viewers, their backers, patrons and stuff really gave them a hard time. I think they told him, नहीं, ये criticism हमको नहीं चाहिए. You are only strengthening the right wing because the upper caste of Bengal, Kolkata mainly, are far left commies. Why do you need to? You must punch up and speak truth to power. The power is the Hindu right wing, not the commies or upper caste of Kolkata. So why criticize them? Why bring them up? Therefore, I think they changed the title of the video. So let's see who have joined. K is saying he has a brain like buffalo. He even hates Satyajit Ray. Subhash Chandra Bose is just pure. Okay, I have not seen the interview as of now, so I don't know what are exactly his criticisms. I had never heard his name before this video. I also make jokes on Bhadralok people because leftists from there always discriminate against me, but what this person is saying is about incorrect. And exactly. I know what you are saying sounds pretty believable to me. This makes sense because that's the key difference between our criticism of the BBK versus their criticism of any upper caste. It comes from a pure place of jealousy and sheer hatred for individual people. That's not what we are doing. We are showing that, well, if at all Hinduism is casteist, if at all UP, Gujarat, Maharashtra, everyone is casteist except you, if at all that is your claim, that's not a factually accurate statement. Just see the same metrics that you are using to criticize other states and other people from other cultures for being casteist, you have that exact same thing. Okay, so just stay in your aukat, bro. That's all we are saying. And as a side effect, if at all leftist upper castes of Kolkata become irrelevant in the realm of narratives, that's an extra gain. That's just icing on the cake. But the cake is showing that, see, even you you do that. Nandish is saying, why is elitism inevitable in society? What a beautiful question, Nandish. Academic Man is already here. We will take him up. Hello, Academic Man. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just address Nandish's question, and then if you have something to add as a opening statement, we will take that up, and then we will check out the video. Okay. So let's
Yeah,
just answer Nandish's question first.
elitism is inevitable in society because human beings were created unequal, and there has always been, even in the animal kingdom, I'm pretty sure no two lions are the same, no two wolves are the same, no two elephants are the same, even no two bacteria are the same. I'm guessing because I guess there are they have to fight to survive and stuff. So I don't think that elitism, equality is a normal thing or natural thing in any society, any part of the world, any even plants compete for sunlight, more sunlight. So I don't think it's uh, you know it's a wrong thing or an immoral thing. It's a natural thing, I would say, that there are gradations and hierarchies in every society. uh, the problem is that we have been guilt tripped for too long into thinking this is a bad thing. uh, and I think we the Indic people have been guilt tripped even more, maybe 20, 50, 60, 100 times more than any other part of the world. uh, because if you think about it, no other society apologizes as much as us for having gradations or hierarchies. Like, if I keep maybe for example, if you talk to the Japanese people, they won't say that, oh, because we had the samurai who are superior, or we have a monarchy still, that we are the worst people in the world. Okay. Or even if white people these days are all guilt tripped into for being racist, many of them don't, even though that's there is a lot of pushback from the conservative whites as well, because you will see how Vivek Ramaswamy attracted criticism for being brown skinned, right, or a Hindu. So it's not like anybody else really gives a damn about all this stuff, elitism, and why it is a bad thing. Nobody else does. Even in the Islamic world, it is so blatant that I don't even need to mention it. That
Yeah, exactly.
there is a Turkish hierarchy, there is an Arab
Hmm.
hierarchy. Even among Arabs, there are hierarchies. There is a South Asian. In South Asia,
Yeah,
for example, Pakistan, Bangladesh, there are so many hierarchies among Muslims. So the only society which I think is tries to be egalitarian to a fault is Hindu society, and people just use that as a stick to beat us more. And the more equality you want, the more people beat you up about it. So
yeah.
that's a big issue. I think it's a
Hmm.
big problem.
Hmm. Okay. And
And
did you have
yeah,
anything to add on this specific topic today?
yeah, particularly we'll see how that becomes relevant later on in the podcast. I did watch most of it.
Absolutely.
I think that the man who is speaking about this, since he's not a Bengali, I think he gets some things wrong, which I think
Acha.
that you can remedy in your
Okay.
reaction video.
Okay.
Apart from that, nice catch on the fact that the name got changed. I'm pretty sure that has nothing to do with Bengali Marxists in Delhi and stuff. So that's totally, conspiracy theory on your part. But more importantly, let's understand that whenever narratives or the war of narratives happen, it's always going to be an elites fighting with each other. Like, it is never going to be the people versus some person. Okay, even the people raise a champion or somebody, or a group of academics or somebody, and then they use that to fight against their opponents who have other views. You can never have what I mean. To be fair, this is what the left actually kind of convinces you. People like Gramsci and all, that there are organic intellectuals at the level, at the village level, at the street level, society level, where people who are representatives of the people will come out and voice the concerns of the people and go and fight with the ruling class and elites and stuff on your behalf. But it never really, like, the left are the first group of people who, and Neerajan knows what I'm talking about. I can't go into big details. The left are the first group of people who keep elites on their side, Okay, and they know that, then that is why system unka hai or government hamara hai or jo bhi hai, that kind of thing continues to happen because the system is run by elites, whether we like it or not. And that is why having your own elites is always more important if you really want to make a change. So you can have 100 crore people voting for you, but still can't, have your judgments in the Supreme Court on your way, or you can't have academics talking your talking points. You won't have that. You won't have the media on your side. Not the media that's respected at any rate. So, so that's the problem. And we are lucky, perhaps, that there are people like Shashi Tharoor and all who are willing to come across the aisle and talk to a lot of people and represent the country in its in a bad time. But that's the thing. It's how many people have that magnanimity and power of Tharoor's stature. So you need more. You need more pro-Indic people who have that level of stature, or even if not that level, something close to that. So yeah, that's what I had to say. Let's move on to the.
Let's start the video. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nandish is saying, so hustle to become the elite is what drives the society. It's a class struggle, but to become the new elite class. Nandish, it's a brilliant
Yes.
observation you have made. We agree 100%.
Yes.
But you see, that is why India's progress is hampered, because we are shooting ourselves in the foot, because it's a race to the bottom. Because today, the hustle is to come across as poor and lower caste or lower class. That is the big
Did you
problem.
share a few days ago that dude who keeps writing about Indian mythology, Bulbul Jinish?
Devdutt Patnaik.
Devdutt Patnaik, yes. He he actually observed something similar that we've been saying for a very long time. Like, pehle, people used to be Kshatriya and Brahmin, and then when it was like, when the government said, "Arey bhai, tum Dalit bano, Dalit," and then everyone is like, "I'm Dalit, I'm Dalit." So it's the same concept. Whatever gets you power and money. It's always been about power and money. Let's not forget that.
Yeah. Rishi is saying, Jai Bhim, Jai Samvidhan, Manuvad, Hai Hai, Baman Bharat Chod. Baba Sahib made the ultimate sacrifice for us. We are the Mool Nivasi of India. Hinduism is Aryan, foreign, false religion. This is the land of Buddha and Baba Sahib. Now Rishi is being sarcastic, and उसका sarcastic comment देख के मेरे भोसड़ी के कुछ नए viewers छोड़ देंगे channel ये समझ के कि हम ये सब encourage करते हैं हमारे सारे viewers ऐसे हैं.
Do you even sarcasm, bro? Anyway.
The right doesn't sarcasm.
अच्छा कितना पैसा दे चुके हो तुम ब्रैड पिट योजना को कितना पैसा दे चुके हो तुम?
Yeah, a lot.
ब्रैड पिट बचाओ
3
योजना.
times. There are 3 movies that I have watched thrice in my life. No, there are 3 movies that I have watched 3 times in the theaters. It's Interstellar, Kantara, and F1. F1 just hit me differently. F1 was just
Absolutely,
extra.
absolutely. Can't agree more. Now let's watch about.
नहीं है दिल्ली एयरपोर्ट में चलो दिलवाले दुल्हनिया ले जाएंगे इज अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग फिल्म बिकॉज़ इट डजंट हैव अ विलन उस फिल्म में एक्चुअली कोई क्राइसिस ही नहीं है दिल्ली एयरपोर्ट में जाओगे मदर विल कॉल बेबी कम हियर और बेबी आ रहा है ऐसे करके वो ऑलरेडी उसकी इंग्लिश मदर टंग है वही अंकल वही आंटी जिसको तुम बोले थे ओ माय गॉड दे आर सो बिगेट्स वो तुम्हारा लहंगा शॉपिंग लेके जा रही है
हम लोगों को भी तुम गाली पड़वाओगे रविकांत ये सब बोल रहे हो अड्डा में
पीडीए हुआ के बोल रहा है अखिलेश यादव राइट
द वर्ल्ड्स ग्रेटेस्ट एक्टर
आई एम प्रीटी श्योर ही न्यू व्हाट ही वाज डूइंग द मैन वाज कुकिंग आई डिड माय बीए फ्रॉम जादवपुर यूनिवर्सिटी
ये अप्रोक्सीमेटली कौन सी साल की बात कर रहे हो
2003 to 2006 I'm that old right so in that ancient era how many OBC thinkers in Delhi we have the example who started out by talking about Baba Saheb and then slowly when it suited them like went over to the power side
who are you talking about what specific are you bitter Ravikant
ये कैसा करण थापर टाइप क्वेश्चन है which is a caste
he's talking about Dilip Mandal right
Yes, I think so.
system.
I
Most
don't
liberals
recall
will be
the
like
state. It's not the, yeah.
वो उत्तर प्रदेश
towards
is very
the end.
casteist when I was
huh
No, I think that part was towards the end. I watched till
Acha,
he
acha.
went for the Savarnadi women thing. So I think it was the whole thing.
a question है
So let's
which is a
get on.
casteist state you ask most liberals they'll be like oh Uttar Pradesh is very casteist when I was in Jadavpur University people would say there are no Dalits in Bengal I've heard people say this some Dalit boy mooch laga
there are no Dalits in Bengal because all of them got killed in Morin Chapi maybe that's the statistic he's talking about
No, and ironically, West Bengal has the second highest Dalit population in India. So That's like the
Yeah,
worst.
so normal to be sub-
Maharashtra is roughly 6% Dalits, actually.
You see, this is what invisibilization means. It's a literal example of invisibilization of
They just
Dalits.
denied like 23%, 24% of the population's existence. कि नहीं है, एकदम नहीं है, बल छोड़ो.
Upper caste being commie is not just limited to Bengal, it's pretty much same for all states, isn't it? It is. But the narrative isn't driven by the commies of other states. It has been driven by so far mainly by Bengali leftist academics. All your ire towards academia that you or any other right winger shows, indirectly, knowingly or unknowingly, it's mainly against specific academics or types of academics or specific books, etc. All of which are either written by or are Brahmins Boidos Castos of Kolkata.
पे चढ़ गया मार दिया, ठीक है, अच्छे कपड़े पहन लिए मार दिया, भीम गीत सुन रहा है मार दिया.
Signs of non-Savarna masculinity are violently suppressed.
If you say anything about Satyajit Ray or something like that, ये आके आपको दूसरे लेवल पे बोलेगा कि आप समझे ही नहीं. Actually, तुम्ही बोझो नहीं. When I'm talking about caste, I have had Savarna students come up to me and say, you say all this Ravikant, but you're still a man to me. But I can't turn around and say, whatever you do, you'll still be a Brahmin to me.
I find it very instructive that in Hindi, very often a polite word for caste is Samaj.
Right-wing ka fear is a fear of a mob. But ye chapka jo hai, they will ensure you'll never get a job. Although my book says meet the Savarnas and I speak very critically about Savarnas. And a lot of times Savarnas feel very attacked. Don't feel attacked.
I speak critically about Savarnas, but don't feel attacked. I will attack you, don't feel attacked. Hey, what kind of gaslighting is this?
No,
I like
people
it.
who felt attacked got the channel ka this thing changed now. Changed the name of the video, so people did feel attacked. So, and
Rishi is saying
unfortunately, they
this
were
is not sarcastic. Rishi is saying this is not sarcastic. You Manuvadi hire high caste, super privileged people. I'm not even upper caste. I'm middle caste. Ravikant Kisana is our Thomas Sowell and Ayn Rand. Yes.
Love them all.
This is the book. This is the author, Ravikant. Hi, Ravikant.
Hi, Shred. Thank you for having me.
So tell us, who are these Savarnas that you've written about and why did you write about them?
They're everywhere, all around us, including this room, behind the camera, everywhere. But it's a very strange.
They are everywhere. Okay, when have we last heard someone talking about a particular group of people like they are insects? Why does it sound familiar? It has been said by Hitler. And who's that EVR guy from Tamil Nadu? Those were the people who spoke about a specific group of people like insects and that we need to get rid of because they are kind of infested in the society.
Species because nobody writes about them. In that sense, they are truly endangered, and I'm trying to do my bit to kind of shed light, awareness, bring their culture to the mainstream, celebrate them, glorify them, critique them, and what have you.
Niche culture in India, basically.
Niche and mainstream simultaneously, and they define what culture is actually in many which ways. And for people,
There I agree. Finally, something we agree upon. But that is just the way it is. You will never be able to change it. If you change it at the cost of society's existence itself with the help of reservation, then you will have other fuck-ups that you can never get out of.
people like myself who come from kind of backgrounds which don't have these historical accesses, for us, culture becomes what they make it. So for me, this is an attempt to
Exactly.
write about them. You taught us this, now I'm writing about you.
So you're
Yeah.
turning back the gaze.
Yeah, that's a way of putting it, but that also implies certain editorial arrogance on my part that I have the capacity to process the gaze and flip it. In my opinion, it's a mediocre attempt. I've just put it out there. Hopefully, it starts a conversation, and a lot more people start seeing it in that sense. In Savarnas, non-Savarnas, every interlocutor of culture looks at it a different way. That's my attempt. I don't know if I flip the gaze or not. I've just written some words.
Cool. We'll be doing a lot more in the studio, Ravikant. Let's get you your coffee and let us chat about Savarnas.
All right. Do I exit stage left? Okay, right.
Not Ashrafs. Only Savarnas. Till we visit BBK homes, we barely realize that we are from a different community with relatively. Yes.
the type of books which are there will be very different. The type of movies, music, cultural consumption, everything will be quite different.
It's
The
yeah,
kind of
drastically
stuff
different.
people talk about,
Yeah.
they are very different.
The difference between us and these guys are that we are not saying that whatever they do is inherently, implicitly bad. That is not the case, but it is different. Awan Mandal is saying these Savarnas are taking away our jabs everywhere. Now we will take away everything from you by reservation with 30% cut off. Wait, there was one other funny comment. BBCom is being abandoned by everyone. Yeah, they were abandoned even in the video title, but they changed it. उतना भी abandon नहीं करना है अभी तक जब तक
ना
मोदी
भी
पावर में है.
I think they realized that this would give an upper hand to the BJP in some weird way. So I think
Yeah.
they made it.
Yeah.
Ravikant, the chapter that I most enjoyed in your book is Sex and Romance.
I'm not surprised.
You have a blockbuster line which says DDLJ is the cornerstone of romance for Savarna millennials.
Right.
What do you mean by that?
Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge is a very interesting film because it doesn't have a villain. If you look at the previous 20 years of cinema, which is all these Bachchan
good
cinema,
point, yeah.
right? There's always like this great smuggler or a Thakur or someone, right? कोई villain नहीं है उस film में. उस film में actually कोई crisis ही नहीं है. If you think about it. Shah Rukh's character.
Not exactly. Tradition and family dictating who you will get married to, etc. That was the villain. Society was the villain. That's the
And
key
if you
recipe for
think about it,
movies.
you're right, because the arranged marriage thing was shown as a villain, which is a very Indian
Yes.
thing. Romantic
Yeah,
love
Gandu ek-
at the cost of this so-called tradition in the Punjabi village, that is the villain in a sense.
Yeah.
And if you think
Does he
about
not
it, that
get it?
actually started the trend of Bollywood going abroad, like that which has reversed after Wasepur and all that quite a bit. But that
Yeah.
trend where every Bollywoodia was like basically NRI. Everyone was abroad, living abroad, except us. Yeah.
Shatik, Roys are usually Caste. Roy means Raja, therefore. Rishi is on
No,
a
many-
sarcasm trip.
No, many this thing Rajvanshis and all are also Roy and this kind of.
Yeah, their name literally says they are from a Raj Vamsa, a Raja's Vamsa.
But they are SC. So
Now the point is he a sociologist who has studied sociology in JU?
I think so. This guy, right?
Yeah.
He's a
The author.
sociology guy. I haven't actually Googled. As far as I remember, he's working in Woxen or something.
Okay. And he doesn't understand that society and tradition was the villain in DDLJ.
Itna bhi, don't be so hard. Let's move on.
Yeah.
In the film, he has this actually very harebrained scheme that he wants to go to his beloved's wedding, charm the family so much that they turn around and say, "Isse shaadi mat kar lo, isse kar lo." Which is like, if my friend told me that, I would take him to therapy. This guy goes, and somewhere in the middle of that film is why I feel is this very important cultural moment. The mother of Simran realizes what's going on. She catches these two people and says, "By the way, I know what's going on. I know you guys like each other. Just run away. This doesn't work." So actually, Raj, Shah Rukh's character, has a parental consent. His partner obviously likes him. The parent is saying, "She's my daughter. Please go. Like, nobody in this family will get it." He says, "No, I will not do it because she's a wrong parent. The handover must come from father." Right? In that sense, it symbolizes this cultural transition. Yes, we have all the possibilities. We are traveling in Europe and everything, you know, all those scenes in Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, London mein India zinda rakha hai and all that, this NRI nostalgia, you know, all of that. It's a reassurance that despite all possibilities of modernity, there will be no cultural transgression in the personal sphere without the elder male cultural patriarch sanctifying it. और यही formula repeat हुआ है. आप देखो, in दिलवाले दुल्हनिया ले जाएंगे के बाद कुछ होता है, दिल तो पागल है, परदेस. Sometimes a father is replaced by a fiancé. Sometimes a father is replaced by an adopted.
This is when Simran and Raj are both from the exact same social
Yes,
background. Even
yes,
then you need
yes.
the patriarch to
They are
permission for the
NRI
marriage.
Khatris.
They're both NRI Khatri somehow.
Right. I was hearing this commentary somewhere that in the original script draft, when Shah Rukh comes to Babuji's shop in London, he's trying to buy a pack of condoms, right? But then they later changed that to beer, right? Which is why he gets angry. Actually, if they had kept the condom, it would have worked better as a conflict between Babuji and this guy Raj or whatever. But they changed that, which means a filmmaker is also very deliberately trying to understand कि despite all the gajar mooli that Raj is cutting in शादी में and all जो बुआ जी के साथ वो कर रहा है dance, that boy was buying condoms in London. We will never accept him. Beer tak theek hai. Beer tak modernity has come, not till condoms. So in many which ways, for my generation of millennials, romance got coded into this space. where it basically tells you that you can have your choices, but you're not straying from modernity. It reassures the older order, which is why this film never goes out of fashion, right? It is somewhere deeply reassuring. Babuji last में सिमरन को छोड़ रहे हैं, you know, like that scene like draws people's tears. Like nobody sees Babuji as a monster, which probably he is in that film. So in that sense, it sets the template that we see even right up till I think the first film where I found थोड़ा बहुत इसको shift हुआ है is this Zoya Akhtar film as recent as the what was that Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, where Abhay Deol's character is saying, no, you don't understand, parents are involved, and then his friend says, but so what? And then they're like, yeah, okay, so what? Like, you know, we are all like wealthy elite Savarnas, we take holidays to Spain, kya problem hai, you know? So then there is a slight amount of shift there. But in many which ways, we still are coded to that idea of romance. And now as we are entering this cultural space, we are anyways regressing back to it because it's comforting. The kind of socio-cultural reality that India has now entered, there's a great giving up, culturally speaking, and a great regression which is happening in this millennial Savarna elites that I've written about. So therefore DDLJ is still not out of fashion. It's not being challenged, right? It's come back to the whole thing. Like the first, there was this like pretentious movie reviews which used to come, Biswa and Kanan Gill and all that. उसमें उन्होंने मजाक उड़ाया था DDLJ type films का. But if you go and speak to Biswa and Kanan and all of, they're also like very reverent. They also.
What does this say? Like, for example, this idea that a patriarch will bless the marriage.
See, it's an interesting accusation that, okay, DDLJ remains relevant after all these years for this specific reason, but I think any movie that says tells a universal tale, which is more or less relevant for everyone, everywhere in the world, they will be the ones who defeat time and never go out of fashion. Which is why today Hollywood thinks that unless they show a black or a brown hero or heroine, it won't be relevant to the black and brown people of the world, which is absolutely bullshit. Because Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Will Smith, Denzel Washington have been heroes all over the world for everyone. It's definitely defined by power. All of them would not be similar heroes of similar stature all over the world unless those movies came out of US. So yes, USA is powered and the megaphone that USA has, the megaphone that USA is, that obviously contributes to it, but not the specific races of those people. After all, they were universal stories. But a same universal story told in India or Philippines, let's say, won't obviously get that kind of appeal and would not have gotten that kind of appeal and acceptance as did the movies of Schwarzenegger or Stallone. But so far, the author thinks it's not because of DDLJ's universal ways of universality of DDLJ's story, I think. Which I think is absolutely wrong, because everywhere there will be tradition versus modernity battles between the parents and the children, and that's what they fight through in the end and win. That's the story of DDLJ, not this bullshit caste angle. It's a great way to find out some specific layers, I think, but not the main context of the movie.
Do you think that, you know, for example, he talks about DDLJ, a film that released close to DDLJ was Bombay. And Maniratnam's home was bombed because he showed that Hindu man was trying to marry a Muslim woman, okay, with her consent and everything.
I see.
Yes, Maniratnam's home was bombed in I think 95 or 98 or something.
Oh.
And
his son used to be an SFI guy, right? Did he save his father?
ये लोग तो नहीं I mean, I mean, the Bangals got so like PTSD kind of works. Like the more you get hammered, sometimes the more liberal and accepting you become, kind of a thing. So that kind of PTSD works in Bengal and Tamil Nadu and all. It's kind of it's the main reason that I guess many Kashmiri Pandits have also denied the Kashmiri Pandit exodus and stuff. So in that sense, we have to see that why he talks about one film and not the other also, which were released at very similar times. Although obviously Bombay is not as big a hit as DDLJ, but still, it was certainly a very important movie.
Wait, I need to respond to this one thing. Omega DS is saying, say what you will about the Korean BBKs prove themselves. Look at the list of freedom fighters on cellular jail. Now, I have one point of agreement with you and one criticism. Firstly, yes, BBK did prove themselves. Did is in past tense. Today they don't, okay?
Yes.
But secondly,
Yes.
I'm never saying that the achievements and the pretty much achievements in all fields of BBKs are undeserved, except the art fields, which is subjective, which only depends on proximity to power. There you could say that yes, some other people might have done great stuff, but as we said in the beginning, that we agree with this guy, at least on this aspect, that it's art is subjective and it definitely gets the notion of legitimacy because of the people involved in making that art, because of their distance from power. The further away they are from power, the less legitimacy their art seems to get, or their art gets considered good or bad depending on their proximity to power. Now, and power obviously goes hand in hand, or let's say power and conventions, I think, help each other all the time. Therefore, proximity to power legitimizes your art, whether it's good or bad. All those notions even come from the legitimacy, come from the distance between you and the power. But the criticism of this comment has to be that leftists discard, or let's say shut down, any conversation by just saying गरीब लोगों को खाने को नहीं है, and you are thinking about this and that etc, SpaceX, Mars. मतलब बेसिक्स के चक्कर में कितना हाल खराब है. बेसिक्स नहीं, रोटी कपड़ा मकान नहीं है, पहले रोटी कपड़ा मकान दो, सबको भिखारी बना के उसके बाद हम कुछ और करेंगे. तो दैट आर्ग्यूमेंट is given by leftists on every topic. Right wingers on every topic say no, but you see India was great, और नो कुछ जैसे कि 2014 के बाद 5-6 साल तक ये आर्ग्यूमेंट था ऑन एवरी फकिंग टॉपिक दैट नहीं, बॉर्डर पे जवान लड़ रहे हैं, देयरफॉर वी कांट डिस्कस एनीथिंग राइट नाउ. सो टुडे वी सी that now that Kolkata's Brahmins Boitos Castos, not West Bengal's Brahmins Boitos Castos even, are being pushed, or their ideas are being challenged, or the fact that their ideas are not good enough for Bengal today, when these concepts are being challenged, immediately we see similar arguments from BBKs. And this is not just you, Omega DS. I have had these debates and gotten blocked by many BBKs and BBK fanboys on Twitter and big names and stuff, who bring up this one issue. Freedom fighters were BBK. Freedom fighters were BBK. Freedom fighters were BBK. First of all तो word है. word के basis पे, WERE word के basis पे तुम जितना भी imagine कर लो, वो was नहीं है. word को 1000 बार बोलो फिर भी वो word ही रहेगा, वो was नहीं बन जाएगा ऐसे से. But remember this, that you are in the same category as leftists, dumb leftists and dumb right wingers now, that you use one argument to shut down all other conversations. गरीब लोगों के पास खाना नहीं है, बॉर्डर पे जवान लड़ रहे हैं, BBKs were freedom fighters. কি আনন্দের কথা. And then fuck the country up, the state up, just because you fought for freedom. Your ancestors fought for freedom, therefore your descendants get the freedom or the moral justification to fuck up your state. What in the fuck is that argument? That's not an acceptable argument.
Thanks for this rant. My point, I want to add a small thing to this. Apart from the fact that the word R is thing which you got in, okay, which is very important, by the way. Another thing that I had to say was, this is something actually Tathagata Rai said in a speech. I'm not even, saying this on my own. So Tathagata Rai said that, it's interesting that there were so many people who were willing to use bombs and guns in the pre-independence era against the British government. But many of those same people were strangely absent during the partition struggle. Okay. When also a lot of people had to raise their guns and bombs. Okay, so it was very interesting transition in the 1930s and that happened in the Andamans, that started in the Andamans and became a more mainstream movement among BBKs, which still has its effects. So that was when the British did influence a lot of these Indic kind of nationalists, Indic radicals, who used to say Joy Makali and then, let's say go and try to bomb a Englishman or something. Yeah. The same people many of them became Marxists. This trend is most...
Right after coming out of jail.
Yes, this trend is most visible among people like Somnath Chatterjee, whose father was a Hindu Mahasabha leader, but his son was a communist leader. So why did this happen? Like some people who were totally aligned with Hindu Mahasabha, Anushilan Samiti and all these groups, many of these BBKs suddenly became Marxists. That's very strange, basically, and has to be
I think
investigated.
pretty much all of them became either Marxists or Gandhians after they came out of the jail.
Yeah.
All the jails.
Absolutely. And you can't forget that this is post 1917, which is the after the Bolshevik Revolution. So in many ways, this was a kind of global outreach for power. Okay, as well. So don't forget that this was not always for. So this was not always for the nation. So I'm going to fight, because the one thing against nationalism is a globalism. So you are basically abandoning your local ideologies and ideas for a more global power struggle against capitalism and crap like that.
Yeah.
So this whatever is there, whatever happened at that time is the reason why Bengal has a 23% SC population who is practically invisible in most walks of life. Because I believe if not for Marxism, West Bengal would have had the level of development at least where there would have been an upliftment of the lower castes. So all this is linked. Although a lot of people don't make
If Tathagata Rai had become the chief minister, West Bengal would be a different entity altogether.
Absolutely. But then by the time Tathagata Babu came into politics, then Bengal politics was all about who is the bigger, poor person and all that.
Yeah.
Pretending to be poor. Cosplay.
Yeah. Okay. Last counter to Omega DS before we move on, and we will keep on with the conversation with Omega DS in the rest of the live stream, but not right now at this moment. He's saying, when Shubhendu will become CM, BBKs will still be leading. Many poor BBKs establish themselves in and out of Bengal. Yes, they do. But first of all, Shubhendu Adhikari is not BBK in the sense of us using the term, because Shubhendu Adhikari is not from Kolkata. His consumption patterns are not that of a Brahmin Boidya Kaista of Kolkata. He does not come under the definition of BBK. Okay, let's continue.
Right. It's not just reductive.
Caste is so it's just in a way just boils down to endogamy, right? Who you marry is more than anything else.
And Shoaib Daniel will sit there. I don't know if he is an honest actor in this conversation or not. Well, he works in Scroll, but
he's not. He's not. So yeah, continue.
He's going to sit there and blatantly, without any fucking shame, go on using these sentences just against Hindus, completely forgetting that such endogamous groups exist in Muslims everywhere, including India.
More important than anything else to maintaining caste. Is that what it says?
Partially, yes. But I don't want to reduce this to a one-dimensional point of, patriarch.
Yeah, Raja Manu got up one fine morning and wrote a book on Biradari of Pakistan.
Elder male. That person represents something, which is inherently the crisis of many liberal Savarnas. Right? In my life and career, I've met many Savarnas who are coming from intergenerationally wealthy, literate families, have espoused progressive values, genuinely want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Right? But when it comes to caste and the absolute brutality and the segregation of caste and the othering of caste, they are left without a grammar of how to now respond to this.
Yeah, it's a legit criticism, but then their response is in Bengal to say that it happens everywhere else, everyone else does it except us. And the other response is even more hilarious. They'll ignore or stop writing their surnames, or tie up their shoelace or use their janu as the shoelace, which doesn't do anything for their privilege that they got in their upbringing, in their consumption patterns. It does fucking nothing. And actually, we can't just blame those specific people for doing it, because they were taught by people, they were taught to hate their caste in this one way, that hate your janu, which is a symbol for your privilege, hate your surname, which is a symbol of your privilege, but don't ever get into what exactly is your privilege. Because if we say that the real privilege that upper castes have is the privilege in their upbringing, the way they are taught about the world, about finances, about academia, academic rigor, etc., that is the real fucking privilege. The moment you say that, then reservation doesn't make any fucking sense. Therefore, we will have to be happy with them tying their shoes with their janu and quitting their surnames. But their real privileges will go on.
Again, this to degrade the Indian symbols, that again comes from Bengal in a large sense, because of the young Birosians and all, who used to have beef, and deliberately, matlab show off karke, matlab you can have beef in your house, but no, you have to show it off that you're eating. So
Yeah.
that thing, and a lot of people in the Brahmo Samaj also used to tear their janeus in public. So that kind of that fake show-offy kind of activism, wo hai, then you become Brahmos, and then Brahmos are the elite powerful people who are close to the British rulers. So then you get to study in the best colleges and schools and still kind of reproduce your privilege. This podcast actually talks about that later on. So that's why also this is very interesting. He does talk about it. So let's get on with it.
Life, whenever I've met people from Brahmin caste families or whatever, who in their own individual way have tried to now really respond to it in a meaningful way, they realize that actually that it's not just that I'm responding to caste, I have to cut my kinship privileges. That is a very, very big thing.
How the fuck do you do that? And even if you do that, how the fuck your privilege, the privilege that you grew up with already, how does that get away? Do you stop knowing the things you know? How is it ever possible?
Right?
Like in the book, you've been quite critical of progressive Savarna.
Let's say you have one Chacha Vidhayak, you don't talk to them anymore because you want to cut ties with your privilege. That's all you will end up doing. You won't achieve anything else.
That's Michael Corleone in The Godfather. So Jokio, he is Michael Corleone. You can't, out of nowhere. So
are they assholes or dumb fucks? I get so much doubt so many times in one day. Every day I feel this doubt.
It's an easy thing to do. That's why people do it. Can't blame them.
Was it to appease the lower castes or was it to pander to the higher castes for acceptance? The cutting of the threads. And
lower caste ke saath, see, imagine if you are a Brahmo in the late 19th century or something, or early 20th century, how many lower castes do you even meet? Like how many lower castes are in your vicinity? Tumko dikhega hi nahi. You are doing it as a show in front of your friends, jazzy, powerful friends. So I'm pretty sure many of the Brahmos we talk about, including Rabindranath Tagore, pretty sure they met a lot of Dalits and people like that, but the major time that they spent was obviously with their friends and all who are very rich and powerful. So, or at least, highly cerebral, like people who studied a lot and professors and teachers and stuff. So, inka circle hi alag hai na. They will never, they don't know what a poor person properly looks like. Like Rahul Gandhi it's very difficult for him to imagine what a poor person lives like. So it's like that. So
yeah, but he does ground level campaign. गांव में जाके देखो. गांव में तो जाता है राहुल गांधी, तो उसको पता चल गया होगा सब कुछ.
No, I think there was a meme, right? Like where some poor person was telling, like this is a meme obviously. So telling Rahul was telling a poor guy that अरे अंग्रेज समझ के हाथ मिलाना आ जाते हो, वोट भी दिया करो. So, but I think that works. That is the funny thing. That actually works. Because they think that he's half white and he's like really awesome. People like that. I think that part of the appeal is going to be there no matter what. So यही मैं भी बोलना चाहता हूँ कि देखो elitism is there. You can't just erase it from society, overnight.
Okay, saying upper caste should study for 1 hour, for example, while OBC can study for 5 hours, SC 8 hours. This will help you. Exactly, this is sarcastic, but this is exactly what the only solution to caste, the way they are seeking solutions. Otherwise, cutting Janeu and ignoring your surname doesn't help. This would actually help. Study less, bro.
You're saying they can be progressive in certain spaces, maybe communalism, maybe gender.
Right.
But eventually when it hits the wall of caste,
right,
then there hasn't been much progress.
You see their shadi. The level of progressiveness आपको वहीं दिख जाता है. Right. Shadi is a great handover, generational power shifts within families like that. And the point about a film like DDLJ is this. If let's say I'm coming from an elite Savarna family and I want to do the right thing, I want to really get into the spirit of annihilation of caste or whatever it is, how I operationalize it, I start immediately realizing actually it's not an individual endeavor. It's a family endeavor. मेरे खुद के family WhatsApp group में, my parents are nice, they are encouraging me and all of this, but मेरे खुद के family WhatsApp group में I'll find uncles and aunts and cousins, right? And if I start cutting them out entirely, then one by one I also start losing the social privileges. Suddenly I don't have places to get internships, I don't get scholarships, I don't get recommendations. this idea of exploring myself is a luxury in a country of our levels of scarcity, is only afforded when you have a huge social privilege cultural net
To fall back upon
to
in
fall
case
back
things
on.
go wrong.
That net starts getting cut.
In fact, I would like to just put a pin in what you said. I find the trope of the WhatsApp group, it's a joke.
Right.
Like, oh, WhatsApp group is so regressive. And I find it very interesting that no matter how progressive someone is, they always have somehow magically a regressive WhatsApp group that they haven't left.
No,
that they're
they're
still
not.
on. And
Yes. We should all cut ties with all our remotely or overtly regressive relatives. Cutting ties with relatives, WhatsApp group, etc., kinship ties, it all boils down to that. Just don't have a family, Hindus. Don't have a large family. What a creepy
और
fucking accusation and criticism. What the fuck is this?
No, and interestingly enough, again, this onus falls on the rest of the bigger community, which has already accepted reservations and all that stuff. Whereas Mr. Daniel has not, at least for the time being, has not spoken about what kind of leaders their community produces, who are openly, despite studying in IITs and different kinds of top institutes, talk about preserving polygamy and burqa and all that stuff. So no talk about all that. So it's this virtue signaling is very, very difficult to digest from this kind of person actually. वैसे भी शोएब दानियाल का कुछ और प्रॉब्लम आ रहा था रिसेंटली. I don't remember that whole thing.
Oh fuck, this is that Shoaib Daniel?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think so. I think it's this guy. I think so. चलो तुम और हम टारगेट हो जाएंगे. Let's talk about the podcast.
the only thing that is used for is to make jokes on Twitter.
Yeah. And they'll roll their eyes. They'll be like, oh, he's my colleague. Oh my God, he's such a bigot, And my uncle ji,
Which you're saying they won't
No, they can't accept. Because यही uncle, यही aunt, जब आप शादी के सीजन में जाते हो ना, they become your greatest allies. That's when the system pivots and works for you. Which is why you need to see it in its entirety. You can't see it in a issue-based thing. Right? जैसे अभी some time ago, CA&RC protests were happening some years ago. Now, family WhatsApp groups became very loaded when that was happening. Like, one branch of the family is like, oh, this is wrong, and one branch of the family is ऐसा ही होना चाहिए, whatever, You see the reconciliation between those two. Moment there is a शादी. अब वही अंकल, वही आंटी जो गालियां दे रहे थे, जिसको तुम बोल रहे थे, oh my God, they're so bigots, वो तुम्हारा लहंगा शॉपिंग लेके जा रही है. ठीक है? वो शादी में जब तुमको एंजाइटी हो रही.
What a beautiful thing. Now, should we be fair to him and say that he's probably not meaning this as a criticism and is simply observing as a dispassionate third-party viewer? What do you think, Academ?
No, I think there's a tone of resentment कि you're not doing enough to get rid of the bigots in your family. I think it's kind of like that. But this is where I must say that this is why I tell you guys to watch Materialists and all, and everyone says no, this is crap, and then Pratik Borade on his channel says Materialists is all feminist and all. What I really wanted you guys to see was that the arranged marriage ka concept now, this kind of thing where the family comes together, and even if the family doesn't come together like totally, but even then the kind of choices so-called that you have in Western society are not very different from our society. So ye jo marriage, I'll tell you why this is relevant. So I'll take 2 minutes. So he's attacking endogamy. Why? What is endogamy? Endogamy means you're marrying within your own caste or race or whatever, right? So in India, what people say sustains caste is endogamy. So that's why Ambedkar and Savarkar were both of the view that हर किसी का marry intercaste marriage कर दो, caste will disappear magically. But again, intercaste marriage has been quite common even in medieval India. Like people, Brahmins have often married lower caste women. It's not changed anything. Like their children, identify as Brahmins. They don't
that
say
was the
I'm
main
Dalit.
criticism of Buddha against Brahmins. Why are you marrying lower people?
In fact, actually, Brahmins were more open to marrying lower caste than Buddhists and all. So, what we're trying to say is essentially that when you watch Gilded Age or Materialists and these kind of things that is there, this is kind of romanticized, but unme bhi hai ki status ke niche shaadi mat karo, like marry only within your same socio-economic status, they have to have the same consumption pattern, this, that, whatever. There are like long laundry list of characteristics that people want in their partner. Okay, and that people think that it's romantic love, but it's actually a kind of, this is where status comes in. Like Weber says, this is all consumption pattern based. You can't marry someone who does not have any commonality with you at all. It's very difficult. वो दिख जाता है कभी YouTube, Instagram में दिख जाता है कि some guy from an Indian village married an Italian or something. That's weird. But in majority of the cases, and ये भी वो see, they will marry white women from countries that have bad GDP right now. They won't be able to marry women from countries that have like much higher per capita GDP and stuff like that. They can't marry those. Okay. So वहाँ पे भी एक story है about status, socio-economic status and stuff. So why he is attacking marriage, I understand, because that is the very basis of reproducing privilege in society. Because when you marry according to your status or caste or race or whatever and socio-economic privilege, then your like two families enter into a business union kind of. Okay, and they reproduce your privilege. They tend to protect private property and stuff like that. But that is common in every society. That's the whole other stick, that what he's accusing Savarnas in India of doing is pretty much found in every other society of the world. There is no society where marriages aren't fixed or they are not determined by your privilege, your levels of privilege or your identity. Marriage मतलब ही है कि identity का कोई वो रहेगा. Something about identity becomes evident in marriages. It's not just Hindus or Indians.
Yeah.
है तुमको placate कर रही है, right? They become your beloved. You enter the system. So the system operates, right? Which is why I go back to your original question. DDLJ is so reassuring. Raj and Simran actually don't rebel. They don't want to run away from that network. उनको उसी के अंदर रहना है, उनको बस slight readjustment कर रहे हैं, right? That's the only thing. I think Diwakar Banerjee or somebody made the first Love, Sex and Dhoka, जिसमें one of the short stories is this runaway couple who's inspired by DDLJ और उनकी honor killing हो जाती है. And when I saw that, I was like, this is actually what would happen.
I saw it with a friend in Gurgaon, and he came out and he told me, Shoaib, I need 15 minutes to just decompress, because he was so traumatized by that incredible shot. I don't even remember the other shots, but
Or a film like Sairat, for instance.
Or Sairat, for example. Last scene, I mean, I don't want to, no spoilers, but the last scene is like a horror movie.
It's an old film, and if you've not seen it, you should see it. That like blood splattered footprints of the baby. Right, that's the cost of love across castes in India, right? So DDLJ is very reassuring.
But I want to come back to this point. I want to tie to your earlier point on not rebelling against families, Ravikant. I think we should also be slightly. We should also contextualize.
Now, people who do perceive someone to be from their status group and then fall in love and want to get married, but are not allowed to, or get killed because of honor killing, because they are not from their caste, etc. Now, I think the source of many bad parenting families or bad marriages in India have been precisely that, ignoring caste, the universality of caste, while sticking to traditional castes. So a person who is not actually from your consumption pattern and status group, you imagine that they are, just because of their surname, even though they are not anymore in your caste, because they are from a different village or different city, etc. And you force marry these two people, and that's where all sorts of weird stuff start happening. Now now people might say that no, the point of the marriage is to adjust. Yeah, adjusting always comes after some non-negotiables are taken care of, and I think consumption patterns are pretty much non-negotiable, no matter how much they admit it or don't. Why is he so rounding it? Just come straight to the point. Socialism is a tool to preserve caste hierarchy.
This is because I think rebelling carries an immense cost, I think, across caste. So even for a Savarna woman, rebelling against her family is a huge cost. And for anybody rebelling against the family, breaking family ties, it's a big thing to expect.
Yes. So let's get into the semantics of what rebellion is. I'm a teacher. I often engage with young students who are often very worked up. I always tell them, please don't do rebellion. You've come to college, do your studies, go home. I'm not interested in it. Let's do the semantics of what I mean by rebellion here. I'm not saying go home, घर में क्रांति करो. क्या क्रांति कर लोगे आप? There is no kranti here. What I mean is in terms of when you say like how difficult is it? In some
घर के अगेंस्ट जाके क्रांति करना बंगाल में ये है कि कैपिटलिस्ट बनो या फिर राइट विंगर बनो. और उससे तो एक्चुअली लोअर कास्ट का भला भी होगा. एडवोकेट फॉर फ्री मार्केट पॉलिसीज एंड मोर जॉब्स एंड मोर इन्वेस्टमेंट, वो क्रांति भी होगा और तुम एक्चुअली लोअर कास्ट के लिए भी कुछ कर पाओगे. दैट्स हिटिंग टू बर्ड्स विद वन स्टोन, बट यू वोंट डू इट.
Or na culture.
No, I think
There is
that
a space when
Yeah, go on.
this credit to this man's credit, Kisana, Dr. Kisana's credit, I think that one good thing he does is he shows the actual meaning of sociology. Okay, sociology was never supposed to be. There's this debate, huge debate in sociology. Ki, are we people who are supposed to tell people what to do, or are we people who are describing what to do? Okay. A social scientist should ideally do the latter. Always, I believe so as well. So, in a sense, he's actually saying the right thing, that rebellion always is kind of stupid, and there is no, you rebel. Interestingly, people who used to become Naxalites, okay, in schools and colleges, firstly, a lot of them were BBKs. So, interesting. Number one. Number two is they did rebel against family and this and that and society and state and stuff. But if you go inside that, the Naxal movement's structure, firstly, it was led by Brahmins mostly. So most of the leaders were Brahmins. Number two is, if you go into the structure, it is highly structured. Like the kind of is his network down? The Naxal movement that actually happened was very, it was structured in such a way that, there was huge kind of oversight of the top leadership on the lives, marriage practices and everything of the followers. So in that sense, the Naxal movement was not at all.
Okay, now his internet is gone. Lol. Okay, we will just continue with the video.
You're young, where you're supposed to be rebellious. There is a script by which this cultural reproduction of elites happens, right? I've mentioned this. Gandhi also has this face. It's not a new thing.
He eats meat.
Yeah. वो मीट खा रहा है, फिर उसके पेट से बकरा बोल रहा है, something in all of these ideas. Kanchayalaya says it very well. He's like, I've eaten so much meat in my life, no goat has said from my stomach. आज सुबह ही मैं निहारी खाया, मैं अभी तक तो नहीं बोला है. But गांधी को सुन गया. Right. But this idea that, you have this, my experiments with truth. Right? What a cultural arrogance. Like, who are you? And what is your research methodology? Right? But this idea that when you're young, you will rebel. In fact, it is encouraged. Because it demonstrates vigor, it demonstrates a certain independent streak. Families are also not monoliths. They're always assessing.
But rebelling till a point.
Yeah. Which is why none of these rebellions actually cross over. Because if you cross over करने जाओगे ना, then the person at the center of that so-called rebellion will immediately understand the cost of it. Right? And you don't emerge on the other side like properly. So इसीलिए
This actually reminds me of Hazaro Khwaishes. Where I'm forgetting the name of his character. He rebels, he becomes a Naxalite, but he's so privileged that he's actually taken back into the fold and he goes to study abroad or something. Nothing happens to him and Shiny Ahuja.
But that is exactly the reproduction.
Yeah.
When I was in Calcutta, I did my BA from Jadavpur University. Left government was ruling. SFI के जो student union होते थे.
Yeah, approximately कौन सी साल की बात कर रहे हैं?
2003 to 2006. I'm that old, right? So, in that ancient era.
Just to give more context so that whatever he says is more fruitful for our conversation here. 2003 to 2006 was probably the biggest peak Bengal has seen in the last 50-60 years, okay? That's when Buddha Bhattacharya was the CM and hello? Okay, your frequency has changed. You have gone in the topmost frequency, okay? Lower it again.
Okay.
So
Is this
no, it's still Chipmunk, Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Is this better?
No, it's still same. I think you'll have to leave and come back. It's staying in the same frequency. So Buddha Bhattacharya is the CM, and he's bringing investments, or people are hopeful. Tata is here, etc. So 2006 is the year where he gets re-elected. That's when I think about in 48 hours Tata factory gets announced. Everything goes to hell 2007-8 onwards. So he was at the peak of West Bengal's progress. And even then he is seeing the same things that has gone on in Bengal even before that and even today. that no, West Bengal doesn't have casteism.
In that ancient era, ABVP तो हमने देखा ही नहीं था. This idea of like the campus student like goon was
Right wing to CPI था.
right wing CPI था, right? So it's like I don't know, some of my left listeners might get upset with it, but ये था दौर. You go on there, मुझे
Acha, right wing goon, ABVP is equal to goon. SFI was never goon. CPI student activists have never done goonish things. Oh my god. Yeah, let's see if your voice is fine, academic
Is
man.
this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
this better?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. Chalo.
Were you going to add something regarding Buddha Bhattacharya?
No, I mean, I do agree with you. That was still Bengal had something back then. Yeah.
Yeah,
Brand
and-
Bhutto. What brand Bhutto?
Yeah.
That
And
was the-
being a gunda on campus is synonymous with ABVP apparently, not with SFI at all.
थप्पड़ पड़े ऐसे for randomly like looked somebody the wrong way, आके थप्पड़ मार के चला गया. कुछ भी हो रहा है वहां पर उस टाइम माहौल में. जो वहां पर आके उस टाइम ऐसे बोलते थे ना मेरे क्लासमेट्स या उस टाइम में कॉमरेड किरोम चोल से वो लंदन में इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकर बन के बैठे हैं. तो आप देखो ना कि लाइक ये और जो पाइपलाइन से जो एक्चुअली नक्सल की तरफ चले गए, कैंपसेस टू नक्सल.
तो भाई देखो प्रॉब्लम क्या है. ये जो ऑब्जर्वेशन है ये तो हमारे साथ मिलता है. The problem is he is saying that he should not have become a banker. What should he have done? Go to the villages, do ground level connection.
अरे यही तो.
What are they supposed to do?
You know, this is the whole point why even we are somewhat talking about BBKs, because on paper they're all about egalitarianism and all that stuff, and then they themselves work for the biggest capitalists in the world and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's the hypocrisy, that's like, it's like Mamdani. That's why we shared that thing about Mamdani, where
Yeah.
look at JD Vance versus Mamdani. Like, Mamdani's parents are both upper castes. Both of them are Ivy League products. Whereas if you look at JD Vance, I mean, he went to an Ivy League, but much later. But his mother was a drug addict, and she got married 5 times and stuff. Okay. So look at what JD Vance's life is completely opposite. Despite being white, JD Vance actually is culturally poorer than Mamdani is. Mamdani's father is like one of the most privileged people in Colombia, right? So and that's the whole point. Like, this caste privilege is not at all, not just unique to India. ये हर जगह use करने से it's very important that we keep using this. No matter, like, I know that a lot of people get triggered by the word caste, but remember that it will never stop. The left will never stop using it against us.
Yeah.
In between
So
whatever
what's-
Hindus.
So what's apt here, I think, what's I think correct is the pointing out of hypocrisy. And if he was criticizing just the hypocrisy, I would be fine with it. But this can't be a criticism that why did he become a banker? Therefore, the next step of
I
land
think
programming
in
should
this
be
one-
that in the next generation, don't also therefore start saying that bankers are bad, etc. Realize that you'll also have to become a banker
I
the
think
moment
that's
you pass out.
I think that's exactly what you what you're trying to kind of say here. Like, I don't think he's actually saying that mat bano investment banker. Like, if he was in a college in
see.
Gujarat, I don't think he would have
I
that
see.
this. Okay, I think
Okay.
comrade bol raha hai, matlab he's a leftist. And then obviously he's abusing American imperialism and stuff like that. And then when he gets an American visa to work for a American bank, then he goes, right? So that's what he's talking about. He just never like mentioned it outright. I think in his defense, I'll give him that one. Like, comrade to wahi bolega jo leftist hai na. I don't think ABP guys will greet him with comrade, right? So
I'll respond to one question by Polymerist and Ancient Sage here. Polymerist is asking a brilliant question. Why do you use the term BBK instead of just calling them Bhadralokes? I was curious. To specify, to point out to people, both trads, commies, people who are against casteism, people who are pro-casteism, to everyone, that Bhadralokes are not anybody in Kolkata. Bhadralokes are specifically Brahmins, Boiddos, Kaistos of Kolkata. And let's say other castes don't want the credit of BBK achievements during the freedom fighting era, because that's the only thing they can ever boast of. And nor do I want to share the blame of Brahmins, Boiddos, Kaistos of Kolkata coming up with narratives that has fucked West Bengal beyond recognition and want to fuck India beyond recognition. So I'll have to point out Brahmins, Boiddos, Kaistos, bro. not everyone and anyone is Bhadralokes.
And then statistically speaking, most Bhadralokes, like if you actually look at the Bhadralok caste composition, which has been looked at by the way, I'll tell you from which book. I'll give you guys the link, the name of the book. There were caste analyses and that showed that there was an overwhelming presence of Brahmins, Buddhis, and Kastos in the Bhadralok ranks. Like majority, maybe 80% of them were Bhadraloks. बाकी 20% यहाँ वहाँ से एक दो एक आध कास्ट वाले मिल गए, but overall it was from these three castes in Bengal.
Yeah, ancient sage, whoever you are talking about, can write a paper on BBKs and how they are the real bourgeoisie, etc. But mainstream publications might not print it because they know this will help the right wing, and anything that helps the right wing, they don't want to do it. Think of recently the molestation or domestic violence accusations against Muslim boyfriends by commie leftist Bengali journalists of Scroll or Wire or someplace. They said that we kept mum for years just because he's a Muslim and he'll get attacked, and there will be accusations of love jihad and stuff. Then that makeup artist historian girl from JNU, she also came out and said that yes, this had been going on with my Muslim boyfriend as well, but I never pointed out just because they're right wing. So and another example, Ross Malik, the main researcher who has done all the work in terms of in the Morijhapi case, he used to get published anywhere he wanted at one point, and now he doesn't. Now no one prints him.
University Press.
Yeah, today he doesn't get printed. Today he doesn't get published. Why? Because he criticizes CPIM at a time when CPIM is not relevant politically, even though they are the most relevant party in terms of handling narratives and stuff. So you see, leftist journals and all journals all around the world in social sciences are pretty much leftist. They don't want criticisms to fall upon communists of Bengal today or Communist Party of India of Bengal today, because it will help the right wing. So what happens when your unknown sociologist writes a paper or book on BB Commies?
Yeah.
He doesn't get printed on Penguin, HarperCollins or Brill, etc. Okay, he has to take the help of Garuda Prakashan, and that's the end of his academic career.
It's a pipeline. It does.
By the way, the name of the book is The Making of a Colonial Mind, a Quantitative Study of the Bhadralok in Calcutta by John Maguire. It was published by Australian National University.
Okay.
So, देख लो foreign, why care about what the West does?
Achha.
So, John Maguire's book.
Ancient Sage is saying, how about he makes a right-wing website where anyone can post any book, soft copy, of course. Then is there any hope? No, there's not. It has to happen through legitimate sources with power-approved sources. Like
I think Ancient Sage has a point. I'll just tell you one thing. This channel has been doing that in many ways. You've been reading Shekhar Bandyopadhyay, you've been reading Quigley, you've been reading a lot of people, right? So follow the channel. I think we've already been giving sources and stuff already. So ऐसा नहीं है कि whether I or anybody else needs to write, there is already enough academic literature to critique these kind of things. So
exactly, there's already stuff.
There's already enough stuff. It's not like we're saying something, fundamentally new or different or something like that. So
you are probably collating a lot of other stuff. And there's another problem with this line of thinking. This is kind of what RSS and VHP and their right-wing intellectual circles have done this for decades. They still do it and still think this is the only way. Make your own Twitter, your own website, your own YouTube, etc. नहीं bro, इससे नहीं होगा. तुमको hijack करना पड़ेगा. तुमको छीन लेना है उनसे उनका प्लेटफॉर्म, उनके आइडल्स. नहीं होगा खुद का अपना बनाने से. Daily Wire होता है क्योंकि now Daily Wire is a product of a gigantic well-funded right-wing academia, intelligentsia, research, think tanks, etc. Okay, USA has had those things for decades. Heritage Foundation, Hoover Institute, etc. जहाँ पे थॉमस वेल को बिठा के रखा है, हर साल एक नया बुक निकालो और देख और मारो लेफ्टिस्ट के मुंह पे. तो उतना तो टाइम हमारे पास अभी नहीं है, और अगर है भी ठीक है तो उन्होंने जितना टाइम दिया है उतने दिन तक वेट करो. डेली वायर did not happen when everything was done by commies. Yes.
No, the money is very important. The amount of
Yeah.
money Daily Wire uses for their stuff, and not to mention, let's face one fact: Ben Shapiro is somebody who brings some credibility to his thing, right? So again,
Harvard
Ben
Law.
Shapiro is, yeah, he's Harvard Law. So ultimately, देखो वही मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि whether you like it or not, you have to kind of exist within that spectrum to understand how it works and then take it out and turn it on itself. And this is what many people, including Ben Shapiro and the American right, have done.
Yeah.
And even then, they are not accepted as mainstream. वो सोच लो,
Yes.
मतलब
Even
after
then, they are not even
spending
successful.
$1
Yes.
they're still not seen as mainstream people
Right.
in academic
So,
circles.
and think of the context in which Daily Wire was born. Daily Wire was not a virgin, all of a sudden fundamentally different. Now, finally, we have a right wing thing. No. There was enough right wing things, right wing institutions, think tank books, etc. All of that was there in USA because USA is a center right country. Now,
Exactly.
we don't have any of that, by the way. And they have so many secret billionaires who never come in forefront. Remember one thing about USA. If you know a guy's name and you think he's a bad guy, you are wrong immediately. Because the real powerful people in USA will never show you your face. Like,
Exactly.
even up until this day, some J. Allen or Edgar Allen, etc., fund Ben Shapiro's talks and debates in those universities. Okay, he goes to those universities and debates people. You will find that they are all sponsored by someone called Fred Allen and stuff. You will not find one fucking thing about that guy on internet.
Exactly.
You'll just know he's a billionaire. You don't know what he does. Similarly, Google the 3 top donors of Donald Trump. You have never heard of them, and everyone thinks Trump won because of Elon Musk. People don't know that Elon Musk से बड़ा डोनेशन बहुत लोगों से कमला हैरिस को मिला था. Elon Musk से बड़ा
Yes.
डोनेशन बहुत राइट विंगर्स ने दिया है ट्रम्प को. The focus is on Elon Musk to distract you, to make you hate Elon or give Elon the undue credit, etc. But you will never know who are the real people behind the money. They are the deep state. अगर तुम
No, Peter,
अपना
even
YouTube अपना
among
Twitter
the
बना के
vocal people, you have Peter Thiel. I think Peter Thiel funded Trump. I think Peter Thiel
they are not
had
the top 3
more.
donors.
Definitely, Peter Thiel is not one of the top 3, but he was like you said, he was one of the more vocal guys. But even then, he's substantially powerful compared to even Musk.
Yeah.
Musk entered much late in the game,
Yeah.
and Musk का तो और भी बात है anyway. So
And Peter Thiel,
exactly,
does he have those 3-4 generations of wealth where even his grandfather was a semi-billionaire and stuff? I don't think.
I think so. I mean, he was
Okay.
the guy who bought or made PayPal or something like that, as far as I remember.
Yeah,
So-
but not with his own money, right? Not with his family
No,
money.
ये तो, if you look at the actual backdrops or backgrounds of these people, including Zuckerberg, right? They come from certain, ये Ivy League का एक अलग ही चक्कर है अमेरिका में. मतलब you won't get a non-Ivy League person who's not a very rich or powerful person. वो भी है. Like nobody comes out of community college in America and becomes a millionaire or billionaire. ये भी एक बात है कि if you Google everyone's, like whoever you know in America is powerful. If you go back to their educational background, yes, exactly. Peter Thiel got in with JD Vance. That much I remember. कुछ तो बात है. I mean, something is there with that. Anyway, so the point is, if you actually go back to Peter Thiel, Bill Gates, all these people, Zuckerberg, everyone has a Ivy League connection. Ivy League is like basically, there's a reason that Ivy League is Ivy League. There's a reason, and I think we'll get to that in this video as well. Let's move on to the next section.
Yeah. Like people say about Harvard University, it's a hedge fund with a university attached at the back door.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's continue with the video.
राइट तो वो तो एक रिप्रोडक्शन है और अभी नाउ दैट रिप्रोडक्शन आई सी प्लेइंग आउट इन प्लेसेस लाइक लेट्स से सोनीपत अशोका व्हाटएवर वही हो रहा है even if you remove caste if you just look at it from a class axis the heartland the core is Calcutta and its suburban areas that is the formation culturally economically वहां से हो रहा है उसके अंदर भी एक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है which I've written about which is the Bengali Bhadralokes and the बनिया trader बड़ा बाजार इलाका में आप जाओगे बनियास का अपना एक पूरा पाइपलाइन है
You think this Bengal being casteist is a bit of a myth?
Bengal being caste is one of the most casteist states in India. Because what is our definition of
यहाँ पे
casteism? Many people have said this.
यहाँ पे
Just
People,
to contest.
Yeah. Can you just highlight K's comment? I think you got it. Yes, I would like you to Google something called final clubs in Harvard University, if you can.
Oh, he confirmed. He's saying yes, STEM field में.
हाँ STEM है वो छोड़ ही दो. Also look at a group called Boston Brahmins.
Yeah.
Boston Brahmins and look at final clubs. This is like what Harvard actually had. The final clubs are अच्छा वो सब छोड़ो. Watch the movie Social Network.
Yeah.
Like on Zuckerberg, that one.
Yeah.
So the club that Eduardo Saverin is trying to get in is a exclusive club. और उस club में the membership was used to be limited only to Boston Brahmins. मतलब you had to be not just Bostonian, your family had to be from Boston for over 5-6 generations or 10 generations, and you had to be wealthy enough to get into a final club of Harvard University. And number 3 is actually that Zuckerberg's whole thing in that movie is that he can't get into Phoenix Club. So there are 9 final clubs in Harvard University. That these clubs are home to some of the biggest, the presidents, Matt Damon, जो भी हो तुम आधे लोगों को अमेरिका में जानते हो ना, most men, they belong to these final clubs at Harvard. Okay, Bill Gates, are all these people included. So if like Harvard को लेके तो एकदम ही मत बोलो, मतलब Harvard is one of the most elite. मतलब वहाँ पे you can be a student, but you won't get a membership into a final club. So anyway.
Yeah. And one way to observe casteism of USA, or let's say gauge whether there is progress and social upward mobility of different status groups and different lineages in different rungs of the status hierarchy or not, is to observe that, for example, in West Bengal, for decades, anyone who is 80 years old at this point, any 80-year-old non-Bengali in the country, or an 18-year-old non-Bengali in the country, any Bengali he knows, that non-Bengali guy in India, probably knows a Brahmin Boito Caste. In USA, when we were growing up, we used to hear common names and surnames like John, Jones, Williams, etc. Like the composer John Williams. He comes from a well-trained classical background and stuff. And the equivalent for a name like John Williams would be, let's say, like Boradoranjan, Mollik, Choudhury, etc., Bandopadhyay, etc. Now, today you see so many different composers and politicians, etc., in athletes, in every field, who have surnames or names that we can't either pronounce or we never heard when we were growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, okay? That shows you that there is upward social mobility status-wise in USA. Whereas that's not the case in India because we don't have free markets and opportunities, etc. यहाँ पे फेमस बंगाली है तो ब्राह्मण बोइतो कास्ट होगा, फेमस नॉन बंगाली है तो वो कपूर, मेहरा, ये सभी होगा हर जगह पे, मल्होत्रा, अग्निहोत्री, होत्रा ये सभी होगा, या फिर चतुर्वेदी, एक वेदी, दो वेदी, त्रिवेदी, एक्सेट्रा. या यहाँ से बाहर नहीं जा रहा है कोई हमारा फेमस लोगों का सरनेम, वो देखो.
Actually, Ravikant grew up in Calcutta, so not very far from where I grew up. So hence, this is where he's coming from. Yeah,
because when I was in Jadavpur University.
Sorry to interrupt again. Ancient Sage is saying something that we have been discussing forever. He's saying if trads hear of this concept of Boston Brahmins, their ovaries will burst. Yes, we have always noticed since the day we started, at least I got convinced of this stuff, that far left commies and trads do have an alliance, and unknowingly they have allied with each other.
Or when I was in college, people would say, actually even afterwards, there are no Dalits in Bengal. I've heard people say this. You know, you could say this.
No Dalits in Bengal. Wow.
Calcutta, so not very far from where I grew up. So hence, this is where he's coming from.
Yeah, because when I was in Jadavpur University, or when I was in college, people would say, actually even afterwards, there are no Dalits in Bengal. I've heard people say this. You know, you could say this. And caste
it reminds me of Iran. There are no homosexuals in Iran.
So, if you actually, now how do we see, okay, which is a casteist state? You ask most liberals, they'll be like, oh, Uttar Pradesh is very casteist. Or Bihar. क्यों? क्योंकि वहाँ पर you're seeing all these atrocities play out.
Cow belts are.
Cow belts are. But actually, atrocity हो रही है क्योंकि assertion है. Right? The person who's going and committing violence is able to do that, is prompted to do that because तुम मेरे को आँख दिखा रहे हो.
जहाँ सन्नाटा है
हाँ।
वहाँ सबसे खराब है।
Right.
अगर ताली बज रही है मतलब दो हाथे हैं वहाँ पर।
यू
अरे भाई ये तो हमने बोला है कितनी बार कि यूपी में
Yes.
अगर एक्चुअल कास्टिज्म का केस होता है तो वहां पे हर लोअर कास्ट के लिए भी 200 लोग खड़े हो जाएंगे, राइट, और अपर कास्ट के लिए भी 200 लोग खड़े हो जाएंगे, उसमें बवाल होगा, फिर बवाल का मीमांसा होगा और फिर अपने अपने घर चले जाएंगे। खुल लौड़े, वेस्ट बंगाल में किसी को पता भी नहीं चलेगा कि वो लोअर कास्ट था भी या नहीं, या फिर लोअर कास्ट था इसलिए वो मर चुका था, उसके पीछे 200 लोग आएंगे भी नहीं।
Exactly.
बिहार वेरी प्रोग्रेसिव ऑन कास्ट इन दैट सेंस, महाराष्ट्र वेरी प्रोग्रेसिव ऑन कास्ट। कहाँ पर सबसे ज्यादा सन्नाटा है? बंगाल, उड़ीसा।
ओह शिट, अरे अब तो थोड़ा सिंपैथी हमारे टकले प्रोफेसर
No, no, that's why I told you. I mean, it's not all bad.
Yeah.
Chalo.
These are some of the core caste states.
Around 3, 4, 5 years back, one Ambedkarite politician had told me that I'll never forget this. He's saying, आप जहाँ देखो जहाँ कुछ नहीं हो रहा है
हाँ।
वहीं सबसे ज्यादा क्रूएल्टी है।
Absolutely.
आप बंगाल देखो, गुजरात देखो, जहाँ कुछ होता नहीं है। गुजरात में अभी थोड़ा सा हुआ है हाल ही में, पर उसके पहले कुछ नहीं था, सन्नाटा था।
In fact, in places
हाँ,
आ गया थोड़ा सा इसको, थोड़ा गुजरात, थोड़ा सा ये देना पड़ेगा ना, एकदम मेरे बंगाली बंगालीज उठ जाएंगे। So,
yeah.
गुजरात में
like
नहीं
this,
है।
what you
गुजरात
see
में
is-
the पाटीदार movement is still a bigger movement than any caste movement in Bengal in the last like 50 years or so.
Yeah.
जो भी हो, Jignesh Mewani and all these people.
Yeah.
why Bengal is particularly more pernicious than let's say Gujarat or Odisha is, बंगाली भद्रलोक का एक अपना नैरेटिव है कि वी आर द एनलाइटेंड वंस। हमारा कल्चरल रेनेसां चल रहा है फ्रॉम माइकल मधुसूदन दत्त, विद्यासागर, all the way through the great Tagores and right up till Satyajit Ray. So they have this like claim on this unbroken tradition of great men, intellectually actualized people who are basically wealthy landowning families who collaborated with either the British, were part of the opium smuggling trade in some way, shape, form or the other.
Yeah.
They've made their wealth in those spaces, right? And hence, because of that narrative, they feel that they are particularly progressive.
Yeah.
अब बंगाल के अंदर जातिवाद जो हो रहा है,
Like I have a friend Adil, he points out in race films, you will almost not see any non-Savarna Muslim. The vast majority of Bengal's population, they don't make it in any role in his films, as great as his films are.
I must say this, as somebody who talks about caste very openly and very directly, now for 4-5 years, I've been doing this online. Right-wing BJP also attacks me sometimes. सबसे ज्यादा मेरे को गालियां पड़ी है when I talk about Bengal Bhadralokes.
Which is why you had to change the title of the video. वीडियो का टाइटल इसलिए चेंज हुआ है, यू सी। सवर्णा वुमेन पे आ गया बात। देखो, सवर्णा वुमेन आर सच स्केपगोट्स दैट दे हैव टू बी सेव्ड एट द कॉस्ट ऑफ बंगाली भद्रलोक्स इवन। कैन यू बिलीव दिस?
Yes.
What is going on here?
If you say anything about Satyajit Ray or something like that, my God, it's not just that they will use the language of belittling you.
तो हम लोगों को भी तुम गाली पड़वाओगे रविकांत,
हाँ,
ये सब
बिल्कुल,
बोल रहे हो
बिल्कुल।
अड्डा में।
अरे इसमें आके नीचे बोलेंगे कि ये अनपढ़ है, इसको समझ ही नहीं आया।
Right.
That's discrediting. One is how dare you say it. That's the BJP IT cell of saying how dare you say it. ये आके आपको दूसरे लेवल पे बोलेगा कि आप समझे ही नहीं। Actually तुम्हें बोझो नहीं, you didn't get it.
Okay, now interestingly, he gets this criticism from commie leftists. I get this criticism from right-wing BB commie fanboy right-wingers. That no, freedom
Yes.
fighters. Hey, actually, you didn't get. You see,
Actually,
Right? If you
actually, what do we call it? What splaining is this? This is BBK splaining, right?
हाँ हाँ हाँ, अरे मत बोलो यार, ओमेगा
Take a film like-
ओमेगा तब से ओमेगा
Since
is
we're
very
talking
Which is
sad.
really more pernicious than
Yes.
attacking you.
yes, it discredits you
It discredits you.
and it patronizes you.
बच्चे हो तुम, क्या
हाँ,
ही
तुम्हें नहीं
समझोगे,
समझ आया।
तुम्हें तो अकल ही नहीं है।
You take a film like Oshani Shanket, which is about the Bengal famine, right? Distant Thunder. One of the funniest scenes actually I've seen on cinema is famine is happening. एक तो उसने पूरी फिल्म को टेल किया है फोकस किया from the perspective of this Brahmin couple. ठीक है, पुअर ब्राह्मण, गरीब ब्राह्मण कपल है।
That's a trope in race films. Poor
Always, हाँ, उसमें मैं जा नहीं रहा।
Like any, हाँ।
ठीक है, he is a Savarna filmmaker, he is telling Savarna stories. भाई बनाओ, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है।
Right.
अब एक ब्राह्मण कपल है, famine is like
अगर नहीं बनाता तब तो बोलते कि भाई अप्रोप्रिएट कर रहा है, सत्यजीत राय को क्या पता दलित का है।
rising.
No, I
Food
don't
scarcity हो
think
रही है।
we appreciate what the Bengal's thing is here. I don't think people would buy books if Pradosh Chandra Mitro was Pradosh Chandra Mondol.
And
In
especially if
Bengal.
it was Shapui or Doloi.
Yeah.
People have-
I don't
people
think
have
people
still
would even buy those
actually
books.
some-
So
Yeah.
in Ray's defense, the people of Bengal are so inherently kind of elitist in that sense that they would not take a Dalit a Dalit hero or something like that. That's the feeling I had when I was hearing this guy. So anyway,
Yeah. Satyajit Ray was feminist. He
no,
always
I
makes
don't want
movies
to
about
feel
feminists.
attacked. Don't feel attacked. I'm not we're describing
So this guy,
क्या बोले, Bengal's Bhadralokes class who want their heroes to be named with 3-syllable surnames and
Yeah.
also have all the progressive values in the world and everything.
Yeah.
That's the
a
ideal.
filmmaker, he's
Bhadralokes.
telling Savarna.
Yeah.
हाँ उसमें मैं जा नहीं रहा
Like anyway, हाँ.
ठीक है ही इज अ सवर्णा फिल्म मेकर ही इज टेलिंग सवर्णा स्टोरीज भाई बनाओ कोई दिक्कत नहीं है अब एक ब्राह्मण कपल है फैमिन इज लाइक राइजिंग फूड स्कैरसिटी हो रही है तो दिस गाय will now go out he is walking to a very distant village to ask for some food or some alms or something like that तो वो एक घर पे पहुंचता है तो वहाँ पे घर की जो औरत है वो उसको बोलती है कि पंडित जी आप इतने दूर से आए हो आई एम जस्ट पैराफ्रेजिंग आप इतने दूर से आए हो आई एम सॉरी वी डोंट हैव फूड टू स्पेयर फॉर यू बिकॉज वी आर आल्सो स्ट्रगलिंग बट सिंस यू कम दिस वे you can eat something and go but there's a problem you're Brahman I can't cook for you right so I'll give you the ingredients you cook for yourself अब वो ट्रैजिक सीन है वो खुद खाना बना रहा है और वो ऐसे ऐसे कर रहा है कि शिट ये वो unironically दिखा रहा है he's not showing it as a form of like he could have very easily said if you've written this scene in you can very easily take the cinematic liberty and says no look these are end times what are we talking about it's fine नहीं वो tragedy बना रहा है अब you point these things out the Bhadralokes will come and say, oh, you didn't get it.
So I'll just end this point here. There's a real historical thing where during the Bengal famine,
I didn't fully get what was the criticism exactly.
The criticism is end times mein why are you still this is why I said that you can explain this stuff much better because he's missing the nuance that he according to him because there's a famine that people are should not adhere to caste. That's his criticism. But jab what Satyajit is showing is that a poor Brahmin family is still being given respect despite the famine, and people are saying, "Ha, theek hai, you make your own food because you won't eat from my hand because I'm a Dalit." So that kind of thing is showing. So in that sense, actually, Satyajit did try to critique that aspect.
Yes.
Like, he did try to
Yes.
critique that.
He didn't understand Satyajit's point here.
Exactly. I don't think that he appreciated. Like till now, I was with him. Except this, I don't think we're giving due credit to that scene. And look at Daniel's thing now. अभी देख लो कैसे करेगा वो.
Okay.
Like how he kind of does a balancing act.
Get it.
So I'll just end this point here. There's a real historical thing where during the Bengal famine, there was a proposal to set up soup kitchens, distribution of food. उस time था नहीं PDS, so they were to distribute food. And actually, this was an actual point raised by SP Mukherjee, who at that time Hindu Mahasabha later on founded the BJP. He said, how can there ever be a soup kitchen? Because we don't know the caste of the person cooking the food. So this fiction, but this has actually happened where
I just want
major
to
politics came and set up.
Yeah.
ये
SP Mukherjee, did he say that because he didn't want people to interdine, or did he say that it's not going to work because people are not going to
that's the
interdine? You
thing.
dumb fuck.
This is
Savarkar's
some-
handpicked leader is apparently casteist. We will have to learn the history of caste from Shoaib Daniel now.
ये तो बैलेंसिंग एक्ट है. तुम स्क्रोल पे वीडियो देखोगे साले और फिर बोलोगे कि राइट विंग पॉइंट्स निकालोगे, ऐसा तो नहीं होगा. You have to take the left and the right.
Shyama Prasad Mukherjee hated Dalits apparently.
Shyama Prasad Mukherjee casteist. Last thing whatever. Anyway.
की बात.
भूख तो ठीक है, but
I just want to add like one sentence to this. Streets of Calcutta, the poor came from everywhere and they died in the streets by the hundreds of the thousands. And these people.
What, on the day of the Great Calcutta killings? Or when?
No, I don't think he's talking about that. I think he's talking about the famine.
Yeah.
Cultural legacy, which you are cloaking under this enlightenment, right? But you can't talk about these things because they set the cultural narrative.
one of the things that you said that you actually got far more hate from progressive Savarnas than Nutra Savarnas. I think it's very interesting and I want to dig further into it. In your book, there's a bit where you write that very often labels like misogynist, queerphobic would be used to clamp down on Bahujan voices. So do you think there's this wokeness is sometimes used as a weapon against marginalized voices in India, especially caste-based marginalized voices?
I'll have to answer that a little carefully because it is a nuanced question. Now, here's the thing. When there is a caste assertion, first question we have, before we get into the pushback, you have to first ask the question, who is getting attacked by it, right? Like you mentioned, so I'll give you an example. Like when I write I wrote this article on this platform called Swaddle, dating like a Savarna. Now, when I'm writing it, in my head, it's a very basic article. Caste or food, caste or housing, इसके ऊपर बहुत बातें हो चुकी है. So I'm just like talking about dating, right? And it has some anecdotes from like, you know, people around me, like you talk about sex and dating and things like that. And these are very, like I didn't find anybody from the circle of these caste marginalized groups who are in the Savarna space like myself. I didn't find anybody being surprised or shocked by it. In fact, their reaction to it was, yeah, this is par for the course. But Savarna elites got very attacked by that. Now, there were very two clear different reactions to it. This is what I meant. Who's getting attacked? Savarna men got really triggered by it, which I expected, because actually that article makes them look really bad, right?
Savarna men.
Savarna men. And a lot of them on Twitter came, and their response to me was like, you know, माँ बहन की गाली दे रहा है और चला जा रहा हूँ, right? या वो मेरे को बोल रहा है, oh, this is completely fake, you guys cry a lot, ये वो. This is a usual response from that section. What I was completely not expecting was a section of Savarna women felt very attacked by it, right? And their response to it was very interesting. They didn't come and attack me and abuse me. They immediately went and said, oh, this means he is putting now pressure on Savarna women to sleep with caste marginalized men.
Yeah.
And by extension, he wants Savarna women to be sexually available for even himself. That's the implied implication.
Can you highlight the last comment by SUR?
When I first read it, मैं खुद अपना
Base Savarna women.
नहीं SUR का एक comment है.
अच्छा.
Yes, this is fairly common. I have to say. This if you like this discrimination against some, you know, village schools and, you know, lower class schools, so called, is fairly common in Kolkata. Like this is where the chance pe dekha thing of Jadavpur comes, you know. Still, you know, Jadavpur University, you can like maybe be a village guy and come in and, you know, you can still crack STEM field ka thing and come in. But overall, if you look at it, this chance pe dekha thing is very common in Calcutta, very common. Have you ever wondered why Calcutta has so many schools that are Calcutta boys, Calcutta girls, Lamartinier boys, Lamartinier for girls, all that? Like there are many boys schools and girls schools. Like it's very interesting. Like
yeah, because BBKs would not
Calcutta
send
was
their
not
daughters to. Yeah.
Exactly. Calcutta was not progressive, not that progressive till like 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Which
are the best? The best schools even today in Kolkata are not co-eds. Assembly of God Church, I have heard that they have now become a bad school, but they used to be pretty good.
Assembly of God Church is crap right now. Yeah.
Right.
I
Church used to be probably the best co-ed school. Then South Point is co-ed, but they were a much newer school. Which are the
old missionary era schools and colleges, including Brabord is a girls' college. Yeah. Most of the colleges and schools that you have were either single gender, single sex schools, or they became like co-ed like few decades ago or something. Yeah. Like most of the best schools and colleges have all been like girls' schools and girls' colleges, and or boys' schools or boys' colleges.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and this is bound to happen. These are inevitable things. So observation
that progressivism that Bhadralokes talk about,
exactly.
The progressive nature, that is fairly that thing was not there in till the 20th century, like mid 20th century. And if you look at Jadavpur University, where everyone says chance pe dekha, Jadavpur University and Presidents, if you go into the non-STEM classrooms, you will see like 80 to 90% people are upper castes, despite reservations. Like many people, many people don't get even the admission, or sometimes they do. Nowadays they do because of the reservation roster and stuff. But if you check out the names of the people who are in these departments for the last 50, 60, even 100 years, if you do a statistical analysis, 90% of them will be from upper caste.
And
especially the
upper
humanitarian
caste
society.
Bengalis from Kolkata.
I think Audrey Trashcan has a comment above. You can highlight that as well. I've heard similar stories
Yeah.
of Dalits quitting Jadavpur and all because they were discriminated against.
Now, this though we hear from other universities as well. Like, who's that? Something Vishwanathan or that commie Tamil Brahmin sociology professor?
Yeah. I know Ashok Vishwanathan or somebody. The man, there's a woman, I think, also.
No, the woman who wrote that book
man.
which Rajiv Malhotra critiqued. Remember on IIT Chennai.
IIT पे है कि अजंता सुब्रमण्यम.
Ajanta Subramaniam. So
Yeah.
her criticism of IIT Kharagpur is the same that Audrey Tashkent is making against JU. But you see again, Ajanta Subramaniam is not going to talk about JU here, or at least maybe that's why this guy is saying. But someday when they do
Yeah.
start talking about JU's casteism, they will of course think twice before doing it, because after all, the right wing gets empowered because of these conversations. But if they are true, they are true. And Ajanta
Exactly.
Subramaniam's book, I think, lacked in data and real interviews and stuff.
No, Ajanta Subramaniam's like best case, like in her theory, what it was would be best served if she just studied 3 or 4 institutes in Calcutta: Presidency, JU, Xavier's, and Ramakrishna Mission and Brevon. 4 or 5 institutes. Just study the names, you'll get what you want. But she won't do that, like you said. Like they'll have to blame IITs because abhi tak dekho, IITs are still more meritocratic than many other places. More importantly, IITs do produce some
Yeah.
large section of people who do end up contributing to India's GDP and also discredit the IITs. Matlab,
Yeah.
either way, you know where that comes from. So anyway,
Protek Kundu is saying, I just realized yesterday I'm secretly part of the extended BBK adjacent, despite being a Kundu from North Bengal. When I casually
Exactly.
described a tribal vendor as Bhadro looking in my office and no one batted an eye.
yes.
Article पढ़ के मैंने ये कब बोल दिया, you know, all I had hinted was
Yeah, were you going to say anything?
I said, Protta, welcome to the club.
Yeah.
We're all that. I'm not even saying we are not castes. We probably said stuff
Exactly.
we weren't aware of. So,
Yes.
self. That's implied implication. That's a very loaded statement. When I first read it, मैं खुद अपना article पढ़ रहा हूँ, मैंने ये कब बोल दिया, you know. All I had hinted was, which I've tried to expand on the book also, is Savarna woman is not above the Savarna-ness of the culture. Okay? And Savarna women culture, elite culture has not yet been very, sharply decoded. There's some Dalit feminists and, Ambedkarite feminist scholars. They're doing a far more fantastic job than I can ever do. But they are the
थोड़ा सिंप ना ही करे तो ये काय का स्क्रोलर का इंटरव्यू हुआ भाई.
ones, if you listen to them, they will often point out the hypocrisies of Savarna women, who will constantly talk about feminist solidarity, but when it is suitable to them, then they become Savarna. So they play, in that sense, one feet on both sides. So,
And, for example, aren't Savarna women also pretty big victims of the caste system?
exit it.
How?
It's like men saying कि we are also victims of patriarchy. छोड़ दो कल, कौन मना कर रहा है आपको? That's what I'm trying to say. Like, a lot of my friends will tell me कि, when I'm on my periods, I'm not allowed to go into the kitchen and all. दादी को बुरा लगता है. क्यों indulge कर रहे हो? Right? Actually, you can't break out of that. Because somewhere along the way, this performance of, I'm struggling, I'm fighting, but I'm also a keeper of tradition. So for me, when I look at especially Savarna women performances, and I'm very acutely aware, I don't have a location to say it, तो सबसे common आप क्या बोल सकते हो कि ये misogynist है? शायद हूँ, I don't know, maybe I am here. I haven't unpacked that. And baselines सभी होते हैं. I get it. But my point is, I'm looking at Savarna women performances in the other sphere, where you're conforming. I'm contrasting that with that.
Nice.
तो आपका सिर्फ जहां आपको ऑपरेशन फील हो रहा है, मैं सिर्फ उस पे फोकस नहीं कर रहा. आपकी कंफर्मिटी में भी मैं फोकस कर रहा हूँ. व्रत कौन
कॉन्फॉर्मिटी और भाई बेनिफिट लेना. जैसे कि हम अगर मिसोजिनी, ऑब्जेक्टिफिकेशन, सेक्सुअलाइजेशन ऑफ वुमेन इन आर्ट्स मान के भी चले, तो भाई कितने महिलाओं को तो व्यूज शोज पे इनविटेशन मिलते ही हैं सिर्फ और सिर्फ उनको उस दिन एक फीमेल वोकलिस्ट चाहिए इसलिए. लाइक few years back I saw one ad for they were looking for a pianist in a Mumbai based cafe, Mumbai or Bangalore based cafe, and they wanted a female pianist. What the fuck? To realize that no one is going to shut their eyes and listen to music. They are going to look at the beauty and good looks of the male, female singer, backup singers, guitarists, etc. You will definitely have a bigger foot in the door if you are good looking and you carry yourself in a certain way. I don't believe beauty is objective though, but it can evolve only with a lot of time. But here you see a female pianist getting invited or getting hired is very significant, because this is not sexualization or objectification in the obvious ways that you usually think of. You might think, okay, people are looking for a female vocalist for their let's say college show and all, just because they want to see that female vocalist's legs. She will probably wear a micro mini, and in fact I think biggest singers consult with their show organizers as well. What should I wear? I think men and women both do that. I think they get their dresses approved, I've heard, beforehand. So this is not just about looking at the thighs of the female singer when the show is going on at a concert. This is not about the jiggling breasts of a female singer when the show is going on, because that pianist is going to sit at the side somewhere playing the piano. How does her boobs matter here? It matters because I want to show as an organizer that there's a beautiful woman. She will be definitely beautiful, at least playing the piano, because we now have a let's say outlook towards piano itself, which is very, very caste-like in our thinking, because it comes from Western classical. West is the upper caste of the entire world, and a woman who will probably wear a dress, we don't think she'll wear a half pant and a crop top and play a fucking piano, right? So I want that kind of a beauty for my stage here, and that woman who will get that job is benefiting from her gender. And I am giving an obscure fucking example because the other ones are all too easy to give. If you are a woman, sit with a guitar, play absolute fucking horse shit, play bad music, play good music, play distuned music, don't even tune your guitar at all. But since you are a woman who can play guitar even, or just because you will hold the guitar here and one boob will be above the guitar, and it's a crazy sight for men anyway, so they get the benefit of misogyny every fucking moment of the day. A lot of women do. So this is where I think his criticism therefore makes sense.
But my point is, I'm looking at Savarna women performances in the other sphere where you're conforming. I'm contrasting that with that. तो आपका सिर्फ जहां आपको ऑपरेशन फील हो रहा है, मैं सिर्फ उस पर फोकस नहीं कर रहा. आपकी कंफॉर्मिटी में भी मैं फोकस कर रहा हूँ. व्रत कौन रख रहा है, हवन पूजन कौन कर रहा है, सबसे ज्यादा जब शादी ब्याह वगैरह हो रहा है कौन उसका इंजन है, who is holding this order. Caste as a, especially the Savarna-ness of it, cannot exist without at least the complicit toleration. At best, Savarna women are tolerating it. At worst, they are cooperating with it. This is not a controversial statement. वरना caste आप maintain ही नहीं कर सकते. Are you understanding? Like how can it be that only the Savarna men are casteist and Savarna women are all like, you know, by and large progressive warriors? Because, you know, then how does the structure hold? इसमें क्या controversial बात हो गई? आप ये बोल दो इतना सा, then there will be an attack, right? So now what can be the attack? You will not question, you will not engage with me on caste. You will immediately go and gender it. And ये मेरे साथ मतलब अभी तो I'm in the public domain तो अलग है, ये मेरे साथ college school में भी हुआ है.
Nice.
As a professor, when I'm talking about caste, I have had Savarna students come up to me and say, you know, you say all this Ravikant, but you're still a man to me. And I had to say like, okay, that's fine. Like, you know, I agree, I take your point, but I can't turn around and say, you whatever you do, you'll still be a Brahmin to me. You haven't given me that. So intersectionality doesn't cut that way. Intersectional तो दोनों होता है ना. तो आपका भी तो intersectional एक privilege है मेरे ऊपर. You see what the concept of masculinity is in caste marginalized place, the sunken place it lives in.
Could you expand on that? Like, what does non-Savarna masculinity mean in a Savarna-dominated country?
Yeah, I've written at slight length about this, because how do you think about non-Savarna masculinity? Caste is fundamentally coded around endogamy. ठीक है? If you see Savarna masculinity, ठीक है? किसको दबा रहा है वो? Like if you look at Manusmriti and all of these documents, and Savarna scholars, Savarna feminists have only written about this idea of privileged caste men having access to marginalized caste women's bodies. ये तो एक social fact है, reality रहा है, historically रहा है, अभी भी है. जो जमींदार हैं, जो dominant caste है, lower caste या tribal women के ऊपर उनका एक sexual एक dominance है, right? Dominance मतलब they claim it, ये है हमारा हक है. और अगर आप नहीं ये एक्सेस हमको देते हो तो सबको मारेंगे, सबको हम दबाएंगे, उत्पीड़न करेंगे, जो भी है. What does it do to the masculinity of the community? Right? और आप बार बार ये देख रहे हो, ठीक है, we read these news. Some दलित बॉय मूछ लगा ली, मार दिया, घोड़ी पे चढ़ गया, मार दिया, ठीक है, अच्छे कपड़े पहन लिए, मार दिया, भीम गीत सुन रहा है, मार दिया.
The signs of non-Savarna masculinity are violently suppressed.
Violently suppressed. Actually, none of these markers, these are all news stories, multiple, ठीक है, none of these are actually a physical threat or an existential threat to Savarna masculinity. किसी भी ठाकुर
कोई क्या मुंह रख रहा है, how does it even
कुछ
make a
फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा
difference?
है. It is जुर्रत. तुम्हारी जुर्रत कैसे हुई
ये करने की.
सो दैट
भाई जरूरत किस बात का है एग्जैक्टली उस पे थोड़ा फोकस करते हैं. जरूरत इस बात का है कि तू भोसरी के मेरे एक्सक्लूसिव ग्रुप के कंजम्पशन पैटर्न्स का है कॉपी करने लग गया. That is the Bengali Bhadralokes saying that आजकल तो सबाई फोटोग्राफर, आजकल तो सबाई, आजकल तो सब फोटोग्राफर है, आजकल तो सब साउंड इंजीनियर है, आजकल तो सब फिल्म मेकर है. लौड़े वो सेम चीज हो रहा है वहां पे.
One more
Concept
thing
yeah,
I
go
gotta
on.
add.
Yeah.
When he talks about how upper castes claim women of lower castes, if you watch the movie Braveheart, although this again Braveheart is a very fictionalized account of what happened,
Yeah.
but still there were practices like prima nocta where the lords would sleep with the newly married women and stuff. So this is not new again in halala and all that stuff. So whatever he's saying is equally applicable to non-Hindu societies as well. It's not
Of
at all a
course.
very new thing. It's
Yeah,
not at all a very new
exactly.
thing. When Baron Trump went to college, and Trump went on the podcast on Flagrant.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so all of them were saying ki "Are Baron Trump to ekdam, he's a playboy, he's this, he's that." Like nobody will say the same about Ivanka Trump, right? So Baron Trump is a president's son, but he can have relations with multiple girls on campus, no matter what their status or class. But abhi bhi, I obviously Trump uska shadi koi like industrialist se hi dega. He won't allow him to marry some poor person. I'm thinking, So same thing applies. मतलब ये जो है this concept of upper caste men claiming dominion over lower caste women and stuff. यही this happens everywhere, by the way. That is the main.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
where our critique comes in.
यस. एक्सक्लूसिव ग्रुप में कोई घुसना पसंद नहीं है उसको.
Yes.
और जब घुसोगे वो अपना कंजम्पशन पैटर्न ही चेंज कर लेगा. वो कोई और एक्सक्लूसिव
Pattern change करेगा और he will challenge your right to exist in that space.
या.
He will say nowadays everyone plays the guitar, which is why you will see there's such a mad rush for Doverlin because like a lot of people are learning guitar. So a lot of Bengalis, no matter what, whether they understand or not classical, whether they learned even one line of Hindustani classical, they will go to Doverlin conference, or they will advertise that for like 15 days or 20 days after that as well, because they went to Doverlin conference. Their consumption pattern is that of the most elite people.
या.
Same as Met Gala, Doverlin conference in Calcutta is the same as
एग्जैक्टली.
हाँ, but वही है, but it's the same as what this guy is describing about मूछ रख लिया और घोड़ा पे चढ़ गया, that kind of thing. Same stuff. या बंदूक खरीद लिया. It's the same thing, almost.
Now, we don't want to, let's say, minimize the sufferings of those lower castes in those north
No, of course not.
states,
Of
etc.
course not.
Because after all,
Of
they are
course
feeling direct violence and saying to someone that, oh, Ajkal,
Oh, to their
you are
credit.
also a guitarist is not the same as beating up someone for their mustache. But the thought process is the same. Unless you address the thought process, you are not going to get anywhere with it. Because the laws are
To their
changed already.
credit, to their credit, if lower castes in UP and Bihar saw something like Modi Jhapi happen in their state,
Yeah.
they would
CPM
like totally stop everything. They would like Bihar and UP would come to a standstill. वो जो party
Yeah.
करेगा, if BJP did it, BJP would never come back to power. Like in the next 100 years, it would never
Exactly.
come back to power.
Yes.
Only in Bengal do you see something like Modi Jhapi with the second highest Dalit population in the country, and you see no repercussions whatsoever for anyone.
Yeah.
And I know Dalit leaders in the CPIM who actually support Jyoti Basu after that.
Yeah.
They support party above that. So देखो कि consumption pattern में घुसने के लिए people are
Yeah.
like willing to leave their caste completely. And that is the whole point. कि UP Bihar में, even despite the overt violence and whatnot, they're like this guy only said, like Kisana is only saying that there is at least they're raising their heads. यहाँ पे है ही नहीं.
Right. And actually, therefore, you see the upper castes of Bengal are more intelligent than the upper castes of the other states in that way, that you can achieve some things with sugar, some things
Yeah.
with vinegar and stuff. You need a carrot and a stick. Now, upper castes of Bengal realize that let's not use the stick. Let's just keep saying stuff that makes people want to aspire to be us. In the other states, they are actively trying to stop people from joining their exclusive groups. Therefore, it's becoming a problem. But if you just
Jyoti Basu once famously said there are two castes in Bengal, rich and poor. Okay.
yeah.
ये कोई बोल दे, ये मोदी जाके गुजरात में बोल दे, बवाल हो जाएगा. ये और any योगी आदित्यनाथ says it in UP, बवाल हो जाएगा पूरा.
And we have discussed this many times because this is the most juicy and easy way to critique Bengal's or observe caste anywhere really. But we will have to bring it up today as well. The Doverland conference thing. There are many layers and aspects to it. How caste is performed in Doverland. Now, first of all the audience is pretty much Brahmins, those castes of Kolkata, unless some Agarwals are going there to now come across as the elite Bhadralokes of Kolkata. Now, more importantly, what Academic Man was saying here, that if someone goes to Doverland, they advertise it for 15 days prior, that I finally got the tickets, etc. And when they do set their foot in Doverland, on the breaks that they come out for tea or cigarette, or even during the call, they will call up someone and say that, see, I'm listening to Rashid Khan here. Or they will keep fucking guessing the raga, which is the most annoying thing ever in classical concerts. People stop listening to the alap, all the nuances, all the performance, and keep discussing. This is that rag. No, this is that rag. No, this. I know the rag. You have to prove yourself to feel included in that exclusive group. Thirdly, Doverland tickets are insanely costly. Similar artists of similar stature forever have come to a place called Dokkhini Songit Sammellani in a place called Netaji Nagar in South Kolkata. There is no mad rush for those artists, same classical concert, same stature, okay? No one is interested because the elite Brahmins, Boitos and Kaistos of Kolkata do not go there, plus it's free. So when it's free, anyway, the richer ones who can afford Doverland don't want to mingle with the people who can't afford and therefore listen to it for free, etc. But that Dokkhini Songit Sammellani was CPIM's way of playing that aspirational caste politics for the people in South Kolkata. It was their freer version and poor man's Doverland. But the performers are not poorer or poor man's versions, okay? In Dokkhini Songit Sammellani, I have seen all the greatest classical artists. I have seen my favorite sitar player Shahid Parvez there. I have seen his son. I have seen the Ali Khan, the Sarod brothers, Hariprasad Chaurasia, you name it. Every significant classical musician you can think of, they have performed in Dokkhini Songit Sammellani. Most people have not heard of it or they are not interested. They want the tickets of Doverland only. And another thing might contribute to it because of the name, how westernized it is. It's Doverlane. I think people find it more interesting anyway. Or if it was called something Ranjan Bandopadhyay Music Festival, it would still be fun. It would not be fun if it was called Pintu Noshkar Lane Conference.
Neeraj Shah Memorial Conference. After you've been lynched. So, one thing, this reminded me why Telewest was Gilded Age. In the Gilded Age, Met Gala, Met ka jo, that thing in New York, right? The Met was founded by upstarts, but initially the older opera house was where the upper caste of New York used to go, because they excluded the new wealthy classes. The newly emergent wealthy families built their own opera house in the Met, which was much bigger. And now you see the prestige of Met Gala. Like Met Gala mein har koi jana chahta hai. Okay, even Shah Rukh Khan went and made a fool of himself 2 days back. So the Met Gala was the biggest thing, and because New York is the biggest place, AOC and everyone, like even leftists go, right wing go, everyone, like all the top people in the world go there. Okay, this is the main thing. A consumption pattern ka jo role hai, you will see that maybe in Calcutta and in the West, how overtly it is there, but without using the term caste.
Yeah. And one final point about Doverland. Now, the people who want to show off that they know something about classical music by discussing the raga the entire fucking time, they don't actually know anything about ragas. Hence the debate. There shouldn't be any debate about raga. You either know that it is that raga because of those notes and they're the Arohan, Avarohan, or you don't.
Yes.
Hilariously enough, the even more hilarious part is that they know the names of only 4-5 ragas, and they use it on any
Yes.
classical performance they go to. They will keep debating whether it's Kaushik Kannada or not, or Yaman or not, or Bhairavi or Ahir Bhairavi or not, Ahir Bhairav or not.
Yep.
They know the names of these 4-5 ragas. But एक्लूसिव ग्रुप में घुसना तो है, क्या करे, क्लासिकल सीखे नहीं थे, थोड़े गरीब आदमी थे.
उसका भी एक short ये है कि तू the ones you named, Bhairav and Ahir Bhairav will be in the morning, and Kaushiki Kannada and Kollan and all these ones will be at night. So they can like kind of play that thing. The evening ragas are there and the morning ragas are there. ये करके वो पूरा list बना लेंगे. I think these days maybe they use Google as well. So God knows.
Jurrat only I will crush. Right? ठीक है. None of these are actually a physical threat or an existential threat to Savarna masculinity. किसी भी ठाकुर
कोई क्या मुंह रख रहा है, how does it even
कुछ
make a
फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा
difference?
है. It is जुर्रत. तुम्हारी जुर्रत कैसे हुई
ये करने की.
So that concept of जुर्रत only I will crush. Right? And I can't have any conversation on Savarna women. Whole point of untouchability is not physical touch. Untouchability is social segregation.
By the way, his criticism against Savarna women is the same criticism that a lot of Black Lives Matter people have made against white people. I think that's J.K. Rowling's main criticism against transgender white women as well. That is the same criticism here. That's very interesting, and I think he is inspired from that, but we will never know. And it comes across as originality. That's the point of having your own system. But you see, the guy, let's assume all their arguments are correct in that sense. A guy who has all the privileges of being a white guy, all of a sudden gets the privileges of a woman because he's transgender now.
Yes.
Or black.
So, have you noticed
black
one
people.
thing? This came to my mind when you said system. Have you noticed how many popular books are being released by Penguin and all these companies on caste very recently?
Yeah.
Yahi to we are, we get abused all the time for bringing up caste. But fact of the matter is, the left is now there. They know that academic books to padhenge nahi. Like 90% people don't read academic books. But the thing started with Isabel Wilkerson's Caste: The Origins of Our Discontents, which how I discovered. I discovered it on Twitter on Chevy Chase's profile. Chevy Chase is a famous comedy actor in New York, and he was in many serials and stuff, Saturday Night Live and stuff like that. So Chevy Chase advertised himself reading the book. Okay. Then I see that Oprah is promoting this book, Caste: The Origins of Our Discontent. Then there's a movie on Netflix a few years later, Origin bolke.
Oprah is in the movie as well, right?
I think she's in the movie.
Has it released?
Because yeah. Netflix में है भी, I think. पूरा बकवास है. वो छोड़ो. So then I realized that this is different. This is not an academic book. Caste: The Origins of Our Discontent is not an academic book. It's a popular book, which everyone will buy and maybe not even read, but keep in their homes because Oprah said. Then what happens is, then I see Dr. Yengray's books, which are also mostly popular books, which are not academic books, because academic books cost 10,000, 20,000 rupees, and they are highly technical in their structure. So, utna technical likhoge to, I mean, most people won't be able to read, right? So, then Yengray, then this guy's book as well. So, as you can see, now your market, India's markets and foreign markets are being flooded by books on caste. And these are books that anyone can buy, 500 rupees, 1,000 rupees, 1,500 bucks. Kharid lega. Because Oprah and all will be promoting this stuff. Oprah promote karega, these wire scroll people will promote. So you see, the left has never stopped talking about caste. In fact, they are talking way more about caste right now than they ever did in the recent past, even. इसमें तो as you mentioned कि left वाले भी बोल रहे थे कि हाँ मैं Irfan Habib and all these people, they were saying हाँ caste है, but I mean, let's move on. But then suddenly there's like a comeback of caste and so many popular books on caste. Mostly popular books. That means that they want people to read these books.
And Isabel Wilkerson is not an academic; she's a journalist.
She's a journalist. Yeah. Exactly, and that's where the whole thing lies. That they want like fast, like they want you to have fast food. Like academic theory ko fast food bana ke khila denge, and that's horrible. Coming from an academic standpoint, but then That's exactly what they want कि कास्ट का जो घोल है वो इजी एकदम मसाला मसाला मिला के खिला देंगे सबको मैगी बना के and they want
Yeah.
that because they
No
know
one is
that
going to. No one is going to tell
affect us.
Isabel Wilkerson that stay in your lane. You are not an academic. What do you know about sociology? What do you know about society? You are a journalist.
Exactly. In fact, hers is one popular book. Very interestingly, after a very long time, I'm seeing popular books being reviewed by academics, and then they are agreeing on the crap shit that they're being produced. Okay, like these books, academics are writing. It's like how elite reviewers these days, rate films, right? Which are actual crap. Like that movie that won the Oscar or something. Emilia Perez. Okay. And Emilia Perez simply got nominated for 12 Oscars or something because it had a transgender character in it. So, and then everyone started making fun of it, including leftists. Then like it was a horrible movie. Okay, but yaar, wahi to hai. Matlab the top critics. Okay, they call these movies great, but they're shit. So the same thing is happening right now in academia, where people like Wilkerson, who aren't academics, who are making very lazy comparisons between Nazi Germany and Brahmin India, okay, or stuff like that. They are doing that, and then academics are saying, "Ha, this is very good, very nice, very innovative." Okay, so there's no pushback per se against this. That's the other thing.
Yeah, and if they in fact say that Brahmins were the same as Nazis, etc., then we kind of get the moral leeway to say that yes, therefore a Bengali commie here saying that Ajkal to Shabai photographer is the same as the guy getting shot for having a mustache in Rajasthan. That's just Isabel Wilkerson standards.
तुम अपना चैनल को बंद करवाओगे चलो.
We have a question. Why did upper caste Hindus from
ये डोवर लेने की रात देखे सुने.
Why did upper caste Hindus from all over India move to Bengal at some point or another? Was it only wealth or some other factor? No, it was always wealth only, pretty much. Bengal was becoming a hub of things. That's when the early Bhattacharyas, etc., came here, the Kanoji Brahmins, etc. But later on, it was wealth and wealth and wealth. But if at all someone came here for the cultural side and stuff, that was also indirectly because of wealth, because ideas travel with trade, guys. If there's no trade, that place does not have any ideas because the idea people need to eat. It's at the end of the day, it was always wealth.
The whole point of social segregation is कि आप कोई ऐसा public sphere बचा ही नहीं है in a truly caste idealized sense, in a truly caste idealized setting, कोई ऐसा public sphere बचना ही नहीं चाहिए जहां पर सवर्णा woman और caste marginalized men का कहीं पर access हो सके, interaction हो सके. That's the core of it at the architectural and the structural sense of it, right? तो caste marginalized men don't have that access at all. Like even in an imagination, right? Opposite of it is the cultural mandate of caste. So what does it do to the caste marginalized masculinity? आप जाके मिलो ना ऐसे young लड़कों से community के जो हैं.
I think there's a lot of parallels that you are saying with respect to, I think, African Americans in the US. I think there's a lot of theorization around black masculinity in the US, which is also, I think, violently attacked in America on very similar lines actually than to what you described. I want to jump off that. It's not really a part of it, but I want to get.
मैंने बोला और ये शुरू हो गया. ये सब. Anyway, move on.
He has read obviously Wilkerson's work as well.
Exactly. See, this is exactly what they want us to think.
Ideas and creativity comes when you don't have to worry about your next meal and where
Yes,
you eat.
yes,
Without disposable
exactly.
income, yes,
Exactly.
Your views.
Bengal में
Where do you see English in
always,
this?
you
Like,
know what
is it
happened
English?
was,
Yeah, go
if
ahead.
you look at 19th century Calcutta, earlier because of Raja Krishnachandra Rai and others, and the people like the Mollo Rajas of Mollo Bhuma and all these people, they used to fund a lot of Brahmins and artists and scholars, and Brahmin matlab scholarly basically. Scholars and artists and this and that and religious gurus and Sanskrit tolls when they had money. So when the money shifted to Calcutta, Calcutta had the highest number of tolls in Bengal at one time. The Sanskrit tolls and everyone. So they used to fund those people. Matlab, when you have like crores and crores of disposable income, then you spend it on stuff like art and culture and dance and music and Sanskrit and English and all that stuff. So precisely why wealth and West में वही है ना, West has wealth now, the highest GDP per capita GDPs. So obviously they have the most amount of power, whether we like it or not. Again, what comes down to why Shashi Tharoor talks in French to a French journalist in France, talking about India's like foreign policy during Operation Sindoor. So he will come to that actually. He will come to St. Stephen's a bit later. So I think that part is very important.
Yeah, and which is why my hatred towards socialists in general and Hindutva socialists especially, because these are the well-meaning people who have no fucking clue what the fuck they are saying. Sanatan temperature at 24 to 26, etc. Now, because they are going to keep the country poor, and you have, yes, people should have realized by now what happens when you keep the country poor, but no one else is going to give a shit about these things in the other countries. The bad countries with bad intentions, the good countries with good intentions, if at all there is any such like that, all of them are going to progress with prosperity and money, and you are going to stay behind worshipping, not worshipping, protecting the environment and stuff. Okay, that is absolutely
Yes.
unacceptable. It can't be done right now at all anymore. Now, wait, I'll get back to that point later.
Also, I think violently attacked in America on
Right.
very similar lines actually to what you're describing. And I want to jump off that. This is not really a part of your book, but I want to get your views.
Right.
Where do you see English in this? Like, is English some great tool of caste emancipation? But from your book, I see it
Yes.
almost like this barrier that someone has to break into, you know, what you call the glass ceiling, or sorry, the glass flow as you call in your book. So where do you see English in all of this?
So how do you artificially reproduce eliteness, right? And I've tried to delve deep into it. English is just a language, but it's also how you access that language. In the
English literature is government funded. English literature PhDs.
80s, you see, we had something called the Rajiv Gandhi Doon cabinet, because everybody's coming from Doon school, right? आप अभी भी चले जाओ
उसके यार दोस्त ही सब
सभी बना दिए, राइट? सेंट स्टीफेंस के वेबसाइट पे चले जाओ, विकिपीडिया पे, एनीवन लिसनिंग टू इट कैन डू इट. विकिपीडिया स्टीफेंस अलुमनाई, 5 पेज की लिस्ट है, सब मीडिया पर्सनालिटीज, डिप्लोमैट्स, प्रेसिडेंट्स. ऐसा क्या पढ़ा रहे हैं वो? और अगर इतना अच्छा पढ़ा रहे हैं तो सब जगह रिप्रोड्यूस करो ना. क्यों नहीं कर? क्योंकि Stephens is not teaching them anything that it is. These people were meant to become that, and they are going through Stephens. So Stephens is a
Which is why reservations.
Yes.
for it.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, yes, this is exactly what I've been also trying to say. Like, dekho, you can't compete with the top universities and all that in the world, because every time somebody has a lot of money, right, they will send their children to the top schools and colleges. It is meant to happen. It is inevitable. Okay. तुम भी सोचो ना, if you today have 10, 20, 30, 40 crore, I don't know, I'm poor, so I can't imagine 100 crores and stuff. So maybe you have 10 crore, 20 crore rupees. You will send your child to the best possible schools and private schools and stuff, right? So, and they will come out and then they will go to, even if they go to government institutions like Presidency or Jadavpur, they will not go to some of the lower ranked places. Same happens in Ivy Leagues in America. And that is why I said, when I said that English बोल नहीं पाते हैं ना, I did not mean it as an insult to people who can't speak English. Of course, we are lucky that we can speak English in this country, but you have to understand that people who will dominate will come from that part of society which can speak English, whether we like it or not. This is why you can expect fairness, but it will never come, because the life and the world is not fair. And people who speak in English have a, ये जो Stephens का बात बोल रहा है ना, Stephens, Harvard, all they have alumni associations, presidency, all these places. Their alumni collectively are worth maybe 10 lakh crore or something, okay, of these places. And more important, more than money, they are all in professions which are very elite. Like, they have not seen a poor person in the last 10 years or something. Okay?
They are not the slave IT guy in TCS. They are the narrative drivers in whatever field they are.
Exactly. ये जो the professions he listed, media personalities, diplomats, and all these things, and MPs and all, Rajya Sabha MPs and stuff. So Rajiv Gandhi's cabinet. So just imagine the level of privilege, and obviously you can keep arguing that, okay, I know my stuff, I know this. They won't even look at your face, let alone talk to you and have a debate with you. Okay, they don't need to, and they will get the best platforms and everything. whether you like it or not. Again, the foreign media आएगा तो उनको ही देखेगा. और तुम्हारे जो NRI दोस्त के I know of the second generation NRIs now, people who've gone to America and had kids there. Many of the kids are now woke. Okay,
Yeah, of course.
Indians.
Yeah.
So, whom do you think they listen to? Will they listen to Rahul Gandhi or they will listen to Modi? Just think about it. Modi ji keeps going abroad and talks to the diaspora, but fact of the matter is they will listen to a Rahul Gandhi or Shashi Tharoor more. Okay, this is the reality.
Yeah.
They will listen to the commie dude from Kolkata more than they will listen to Giriraj Singh in Bihar. This is a reality. You have to understand the elitism is always going to be there, whether we like it or not. And that is why we must, that is why the Indie Queen must produce its own elites or co-opt elites. ये छोड़ के नहीं होता है. The communists did that.
तो, see, co-opting is going on, but co-opting's problem is that
नहीं, co-opting
like,
उतना भी नहीं हो रहा है, trust me.
Yeah, थोड़ा हुआ है. But having faith in co-opting is going to be problematic for the long run, because if they are for sale to you, they are going to be for sale when you are out of power as well.
Exactly.
It's not a sustainable model.
Exactly why, again, the temple freedom movement is so important, because you can produce your own Ramakrishna missions and these kind of institutes which are elite, and you can run them according to your religious principles and teach your kids, community kids, all that. But having said that, again, ये तुमको till you have your own Stephens or Xaviers or Presidency or Jadavpur or your own Ivy Leagues, you can't really produce the kind of quality elites that you think you need. Okay, so co-option मतलब ऐसा भी नहीं है कि there aren't people there who are neutral. That's what we stereotype. But even in these institutes, sometimes there are people who are hidden, like who are working under a lot of layers, who are like deep state people. Okay, मतलब वो इतना ही, they are so scared of opening their mouths that they keep working, they keep publishing, producing good work, but they don't open their mouths because they know that nobody's going to come to support them. Like, who's going to employ them? The left gives employment. Still, in India, the left is still powerful in academia, whether we like it or not. Or this is even after 10, 11 years of Modi government. So just imagine.
Yeah. Abhay Singh, how can the status of our languages be raised like that of EU languages, Mandarin, Hebrew, Japanese,
पैसा
and power. वो लैंग्वेज जान के तुम्हें पैसा पावर मिलेगा कि नहीं? और तो therefore the next important question should be, how can the let's say power and money associated with those languages be increased or raised? That too can happen with capitalism, free market. More you empower people, decentralize, छोटे छोटे states. हर जगह के भाषा बोलने वाले लोगों में से अच्छे academics, artists और scientists etc. निकलने चाहिए, तभी हो जाएगा.
Exactly. And
English is one element of that.
How many people wanted to learn Mandarin before the 1970s? It's only after the 1980s, 90s, and then right now people want to learn Mandarin like crazy. Like, there are so many people who want to learn Mandarin. So many private universities offering Mandarin. I've heard some elite schools in Calcutta offer Mandarin more than Bengali. Like, there are parents who teach their kids Mandarin and not Bengali in Calcutta. Okay. And so why? This is totally coinciding with China's per capita GDP rising. This is totally coinciding with that. Or kuch nahi.
Yeah. And wait, there's an interesting comment here. Shraddhandu Banerjee was asked why Bomkesh is Caste and not Brahmin. He replied, Castes are more intelligent than Brahmins. Incidentally, Feluda is also Caste. And so is Satyajit Ray himself a Caste as well. This rivalry between Castes and Brahmins is historical, especially in Bengali families. It's age old. It has gone on forever, and that is one of my next projects. To point out and to gather more data first and foremost, obviously, about the distinctions between Brahmins and Castes.
You have some papers. I think I'll send them again. Hayden Bellenoit and others who have written about. By the way, I also wanted you guys to do one thing. When you guys keep saying that, why academia, elitism, all that stuff matters, go to any website of top institutes in China, universities in China, Hong Kong, Dubai, and all these places, Abu Dhabi. Go to the social science departments. I don't know about STEM. Go to the social science departments. You will see what you see about the faculty members there. How many of them are locals and how many of them are from abroad? Go to Singapore, go to China, go to Hong Kong, all these places, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, all these places, and go to the top universities as per Google, and just check out their social science departments. एक भी local बंदा तुमको दिख गया तो बहुत बड़ी बात है.
Oh,
There are
yeah.
entire departments where not even one Chinese person is there. There are entire departments being run by white people in Chinese universities. Okay. So think about
Now-
it. Why is China, who's
Why?
so proud of their culture and language, why are they doing that? So think about it.
Rishi is pointing out that Rahul Gandhi only attracts flamboyant elites and second generation lefty elites. And I don't know if he said this sarcastically or not. He said that, wait, not this one. Where did his other comment go? Abhi channel ladde mein jata. Modi lived in elite Mr. Mittal's house, so your argument is false. This is probably sarcasm. But then he said no one attracts elites and industrialists more than Modi. This might not be sarcasm. So I'm pointing out that no, that's happening only because after all Modi prime minister है ही तो कितना ही ignore करे उसके लिए people are kind of reluctantly attracted to him. But if the choice was between a prime minister Rahul Gandhi, if we had two prime ministers, one prime minister Rahul Gandhi and one prime minister Narendra Modi, तो हम देखते कहाँ जाता उनका pull, public presence, touch,
Exactly.
beautiful oratory that you have to listen to at 2x and on YouTube, सब गड्ढे में चला जाता.
Performance. It's not
No,
by
and
itself
more
the
importantly,
whole thing.
look
Like
at it this way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rahul Gandhi is out of power for what, like 10 years now, 11 years, and he's still relevant in foreign circles because he's kept relevant because he has that relevance. That's what I'm saying. Like Congress and CPIM, there's a video by some guy I had told you to. I'll see if I can find it. Congress and left, they are the actual ruling elites of this country. BJP and Sangh are not. Okay. They are actually privileged enough and they play the dominant caste politics and they are the actual rulers of this country. BJP is more like a blimp on in history. They're like a footnote in history so far.
Yeah.
And because they are not cultivating elites, they will remain that for the time being.
Yes, and that's
So-
when I think Brahmin Bhojan as a sociological phenomenon will be finally looked upon. I think light will have to be shed on this issue in this weird situation in society.
Eventually.
Okay, she's saying,
Yes.
"Arey bhai, no sarcasm. He knew Mr. Mittal and many industrialists since he was study karta." Arey bhai, then I can say I know Sanjeev Sanyal. How does it matter at all here? Consequentially speaking, none of it matters except him giving some tax breaks to Mr. Mittal, giving him some land to set up a factory here. Nothing more
And
than
then
that.
Mr. Mittal goes and funds people like
Yeah.
Suraj Yengre.
Yes.
So
मित्तल से ही तो सब हो रहा है क्या उखाड़ लिया इस कनेक्शन का
exactly. What has this helped? How has Mr. Mittal and all these, some of the top billionaires in the world are Indians right now? How many of them do you see funding, pro Sangh, pro BJP intellectuals and people? They still fund the same old Ambedkarite scholars and
Yeah.
stuff.
yeah
So that has done nothing for us. That may have done something for some people, but not for us.
Kay is saying oh my god we have such a great audience member the entire audience what we have a collectively a brilliant audience holy shit we I think get into the most advanced nuanced caste discussions there is in all of Indian mainstream YouTube even.
Yup.
He's saying if there was no reservation, most people would have changed their surnames to Banerjee Mukherjee to be elites. Then how can real Brahmins distinguish between them? So they have chosen lower caste. Yes, aspiration. I mean,
This
incentives.
actually happened, by the way. This actually
Yeah.
happened. The Mutwas, the Navashudras, they claimed to be Brahmins in the 1911 and 1921 census. So when they were asked their caste, they said we are all Brahmins. Navashudras are actually Brahmins, fallen Brahmins. So this has happened. It's not like unimaginable, but thanks for pointing it out. Either way.
Yeah.
It's-
Okay, one last comment before we get back to the video. Aniket is saying Kaisers are not twice born. His point is different. I'm not getting into that. But Kaisers are twice born, right? Anyone who is not a Shudra is supposed to have a Janu historically.
No,
as well as
Kaistas
Janu.
were classified as Shudra in Bengal.
Oh, acha, yes.
That's why I told you to read that paper, that Hayden Belanoy
Right.
paper that shows how Kaistas were first classified as Shudras in Bengal. Then they went to Allahabad High Court where they got classified as Kshatriya. Then again, somebody filed a case in Calcutta High Court which showed them as Shudra. Again, they went to Allahabad High Court and then they got classified as Kshatriya. So Caste was self-proclaimed to be Kshatriyas, but they are actually in the official, like, if you take the Puranas and stuff, then they are classified or the Navsakha castes and stuff, except Brahmins, all other castes are Shudras. So technically, Castes are Shudras, according to Brahmins. Okay.
Right. And that's only in Bengal. So Abhay is a twice born in Gujarat, but I am not a twice born because I'm from the similar middle caste, right? In Bengal's context.
Yeah, you are Shudra. You are Shudra. But
Right,
any non-Brahmin in Bengal was officially a Shudra.
But Abhay
Shudra
was
mein ranks-
considered Shudra in Gujarat, right? By the Brahmins of Gujarat.
They won't. Because their merchant castes were powerful again. Rajasthan, Gujarat, their merchant
they're
castes were much more powerful. They would, dominate in different ways. But if you look at Bengal, they had 3 ranks. They were Shat Shudra or Ashat Shudra, kind of like that. Like not Ashat in that sense, like not liar or something. It's more like there were Uttam Shankar, Adham Shankar, and Madhyam Shankar. Okay. So these Varna Shankar, meaning mixture of Varnas, created these Shudras. So usme bhi there are higher ranks and lower ranks and middle ranks.
Yeah.
So.
And so you see, now commies think Manusmriti, or the caste strats think Manusmriti is the end all be all for them. But you see, even Manusmriti absolutely becomes relevant in this context here, because Manusmriti says that anyone above Shudra is a twice born. Shahas, Agarwals, everyone is a twice born. Everyone must do their Nitya Puja. Everyone must do their 5 times Yagya, etc. Everyone must have their Janeu, etc. But even that's not applicable to Bengal. It's applicable to probably Gujarat.
Yeah.
Brahmins of Bengal is saying, haha, Rishi is saying, क्या उखाड़ लिया? बहन तो तुम्हारा ह्यूमैनिटीज के नैरेटिव अलावा भी लाइफ होता है. कहाँ होता है? इस मिसकंसेप्शन में मत रहो कि ह्यूमैनिटीज के बाहर कुछ होता है. ह्यूमैनिटीज के बाहर कुछ नहीं होता है. तुम इनोवेशंस जितना चाहे कर लो, एआई, रिक्शा पुलर, या फिर रिक्शा बनाओ, ईवी रिक्शा बनाओ, कुछ लवड़ा उससे उखाड़ नहीं पाओगे, क्योंकि ह्यूमैनिटीज आके बोलेगा कि वो रिक्शा, वो ईवी रिक्शा किसको देना है, किसको कितने प्राइस में देना है, कितना देना चाहिए था, वो सब कुछ वो हैंडल करेगा ह्यूमैनिटीज. ठीक है. हिज कनेक्शन विद टाटा, तुम्हारा बंगाल पीछे रहेगा. कनेक्शंस के लिए हुआ. अगर हम कनेक्शंस, बिना कनेक्शंस बेबी, बुद्धदेव भट्टाचार्य सिर्फ डंडे मारते ममता बनर्जी को, तो अब कौन सा लवड़ा फैक्ट्री होता गुजरात में? होता सेकंड या थर्ड होता. कनेक्शन से क्या उखड़ा है यहाँ पे? बुद्धदेव भट्टाचार्य का क्या बड़ा कनेक्शन था टाटा के साथ. एक दिन बोल दिया कि हाँ यहाँ पे जमीन देंगे हम, फिर किसी और ने आके बोला कि नहीं देंगे, फिर बुद्धदेव ने बोला ठीक है नहीं देंगे, फिर गुजरात में मोदी ने बोला कि हाँ देंगे. ये देंगे या ना देंगे का सवाल था. यहाँ पे कोई कनेक्शंस नहीं कुछ उखाड़ पाया यहाँ पे.
Interestingly, when we do compare Gujarat and Bengal, let's not forget one thing. If you look at most intellectual elites in different parts of the country, world, whatever, how many Gujaratis do you see? You see business elites in Gujarat, but the intellectual elites mostly come from Bengal. Even despite our low per capita GDP and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Bengal bhikari bhi ho jayega, but there will be a group of people who will continue to go to Ivy Leagues.
Yeah.
So you may not like that, but these are the people who are writing the books against the Gujaratis. That people in elite universities and colleges are reading and then abusing Adani and Ambani. So
अरे भाई तुम्हारे कनेक्शन से अगर कुछ उखाड़ पाते तो आज कोई भी प्रॉब्लम नहीं फेस करते हम. तो फार्म लॉज नहीं होता, जो रिफॉर्म मोदी करना चाहते हैं नहीं कर पा रहे. ऑल ऑफ दैट इज बिकॉज ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटीज एकेडेमिया. वेयर आर यू सीइंग द कनेक्शंस बेयरिंग एनी फ्रूट?
No, and one more thing is, देख लो ना, अंबानी and Adani, ये लोग अभी भी गाली है. Whether you, if you go on the road, let's say you go in the middle of the road.
Arey, Rishi, don't. I have never called you Gandu. I often call many of my viewers Gandu. I was about to call you Gandu today because I know you are not a Gandu in many other stuff. I stopped myself. What the fuck are you talking about? ह्यूमैनिटीज सिटी सब्जेक्ट है या नहीं, उसका डिबेट हम नहीं कर रहे हैं. हम डिबेट कर रहे हैं कि वो इम्पैक्टफुल है कि नहीं. इम्पैक्ट सिर्फ ह्यूमैनिटीज दे रहा है. कहां तुम दिखाओ कौन सा ह्यूमैनिटीज के बाहर जाके कोई क्या कर रहा है. मोदी जो नहीं कर पा रहे हैं वो किसकी वजह से नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. ह्यूमैनिटीज ने क्या लेजिटिमेसी दिया है मोदी के ऑपोजिशन को? सब कुछ तो वहां से ही हो रहा है.
Greta Thunberg was involved in the farmers thing. What was he able to do? Greta Thunberg is a hero of progressives in India. Greta Thunberg bolo jo bhi ho, matlab, my even bigger point is, look at the ground level thing. You go to any random person, okay, Yeah, political elites and all are Gujaratis, but let's face
With-
one fact.
They were a minority. Most of them were Bengali and
Again,
Marathi.
yes, and like let's go to actual real facts. Okay, so if you go on the road, what I was going to say, if you go on the road and ask 10,
हाँ तो 21
10
स्टेट्स में छुप छुप के करना पड़ा कि 56 इंच छाती चौड़ा करके करना पड़ा? छुप छुप के क्या करना पड़ रहा है इसलिए? किससे छुप रहा है? ह्यूमैनिटीज से? वो लवड़े सब्जेक्ट के लिए? डर क्यों इतना?
that it is these people were not.
Yeah, go ahead.
get your BP down a bit. So what I'll say is, let's say you do a survey, okay? Kolkata में छोड़ दो, forget Calcutta. If you go to any metro city, Mumbai, Delhi, okay, Tamil Nadu, not the beggar Bengal. I'm not talking about Hyderabad. This thing, क्या बोले? Bangalore, okay. And you ask 10 people, like moderately educated people, okay, working in the IT sector, stuff like that, know a bit of English, maybe not, okay. You ask them about Adani and Ambani, and you ask them if they are bad or not. What do you think the response will be? And why? Why is Tata different from Adani and Ambani? Are you telling me Tatas are gods? Because there is a thing called Tata Institute of Social Sciences. But there is no Adani Institute of Social Sciences. It's this that
Objectively,
makes
any normie who doesn't
different
follow
from-
politics all that much considers Tata somehow objectively more respectable than Adani and Ambani.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
because of the Brahmin Bhojan done by Tatas. Brahmin Bhojan in
Yes.
humanities.
टाटा इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ सोशल साइंसेज, वन ऑफ द टॉप सोशल साइंस इंस्टीट्यूट्स. वहां पे जाओ, पूरा एकदम पूरा रेडिकलिज्म चल रहा है वहां पे, ओके. बट because Tata's funded that, nobody speaks against Tata's. But the same people will turn around and say Ambani and Adani are God knows what. I don't even want to say it. People are go on abusing them. They don't have the legitimacy.
Yes, legitimacy is the key here, not whether you are actually good or bad or right or wrong. There's this brown-skinned actress who plays an Indian girl. I think she's Christian. I don't know if she's actually Indian, South Indian Christian or not. Who plays an Indian in the TV show Bridgerton. Now that actress was actually there in the movie F1. She played the role of the girlfriend of the black driver.
Yes.
And she actually participated in the promotional campaigns and stuff. Then all her scenes were completely kicked out from the movie. It just disappeared from the movie because she said good things about Palestine and bad things against Israel a few weeks before the movie came out. And the Jewish funders of the movie said fuck off. वो है humanities का power.
Exactly. Acha, forget
become
this guy.
And they are going through Stephens. So Stephens is a passport for it. So English is one element of that performance. It's not by itself the whole thing. Like I speak English well now, right? But I'm not going to be in those tiers of circles. It is a constellation of things which add as filters. So yes, you do need English as a way of one.
नहीं ऋषि, the fact that I have not read this means it was छुप छुप के. मेरा पॉलिटिक्स फॉलो करने का, पॉलिटिक्स पे बात करने का ही चैनल है. एल्गोरिदम में मेरे सामने ही आना चाहिए था, नहीं आया. फार्म लॉज के लिए क्या मुझे आई शुड हैव रेड दिस करके फार्म लॉज के बारे में जानना पड़ा, या फिर प्रोटेस्ट हुआ, प्रोटेस्ट के बाद वापस ले लिया गया? ये सब मैंने कहाँ से जाना? Are you ignoring the degree or the magnitude of these two incidents? If there was no difference in those degrees, then yeah, we can say it was not chup chup ke. But the very fact that I have to read, I have to put in my own effort to know about this, it means it was fucking chup chup ke. ताकि मेरे जैसे और भी लेफ्टिस्ट जो है, जो कि पढ़ते नहीं है, वो अपोज ना कर सके.
Level of upgrading yourself, which instinctively everybody in India understands it, right?
No. Okay, Detachkan is saying your example only showed the power of Jewish rich people, not the power of humanities. Who is it done through? Why is Hitler known as a villain in every fucking village of the world, but not Aurangzeb in the villages of India as a villain? That's the power of humanities funded by someone else.
Yes.
वो आपको करना ही पड़ेगा.
Exactly.
अशोका यूनिवर्सिटी हो, IB schools में भी kids who've grown up speaking English, you know, आप दिल्ली एयरपोर्ट में जाओगे, mother will call baby, come here, baby आ रहा है ऐसे करके. वो ऑलरेडी उसकी इंग्लिश मदर टंग है.
मदर टंग हो गया इंग्लिश.
मदर टंग है, राइट? उसको भी स्पोकन इंग्लिश का कोर्स पढ़ाया जाएगा IB स्कूल में. फिर जब वो प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटी, एलियट यूनिवर्सिटी में आएगा, उसको वहां पर भी इंग्लिश पढ़ाया जाएगा. तो यू आर हाइपर पॉलिशिंग दैट परफॉर्मेंस, राइट?
I think one thing I want to add, Ravikant, to it is that exactly what you said about the passport. But I also want to add how special language is as a passport.
Oh yes.
तो आप अगर अमीर हो जाओ,
हाँ.
किसी तरीके से अमीर हो जाओ, कुछ भी मिल जाए आपको, you can buy very good clothes,
Right.
you can live in a very nice house, you can buy a very good car, you can get the best haircuts. But unless I think you've been exposed to that language as a kid,
Right.
or you're some sort of mega genius, it's very difficult to pick up languages as an adult.
Right.
You'll always have that accent
Right.
and this,
Yeah.
you know, this that you call the mother tongue influence,
Right.
MTI,
Yeah.
etc., etc. So beating that out of a person takes immense effort, and for most people are not even successful.
Right.
So I think English is that way. It's this super marker, it's this mega
Yes.
marker that unless आपकी मम्मी बचपन में आपसे एयरपोर्ट में आपको बुला रही है कि बेटा come here.
हाँ ऋषि, फंडेड फंड क्यों किया अगर इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है, चूतिया सब्जेक्ट है तो, इम्पैक्टफुल है इसीलिए तो फंड किया,
Exactly.
लाउड आउट करने के लिए तो फंड नहीं
Let's
किया.
get to this. No. Let's clarify an important
Yeah.
thing. So after October the 7th, when you remember the most presidents of Ivy League universities were resigning? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Harvard and all these places, they were put on a committee and they were asked one simple question by the committee members that do you agree with the statement from that Israel has a right to exist?
Yeah.
Okay. And they could not say one word. Why? Because they said that Israel has a right to exist. And then many of them had to step down from their positions, if you remember. Now, why are Jews, who are a micro minority in America and in the world,
Yeah.
how do they get to do this? Yes, of course there is funding, but this is why, because they funded these universities for so long that when they want to flex their muscles and say, okay, Israel has a right to exist, then these guys also have to agree, Israel has a right to exist. But can we do it? Like tomorrow, if we set up a forum in India and we call some of the Ivy League professors in that forum in India, forum nahi, matlab legislative assembly ka kuch bula hai, and we ask them, acha, is Kashmir an integral part of India? I can tell you, maybe I think 100% people will deny it. 100%. Because, especially because we did not fund that. But Jews funded academia for so long, they can do that. Israel funded it. Yehi to difference hai. Like, this is although the magnitude of questions is perhaps different in that sense, that Kashmir got most of the funding by government of India since 1950s. They got the highest amount of money dedicated to them, all that stuff, but still you ask any mainstream academic from foreign countries and Indian top institutes, everyone will deny it. So this is why funding is so important, and funding of humanities, that is why it's important. Humanities sets the narrative. It's as simple as that. I can't make it simpler than this. So let's move on.
Yeah, Rishabh is saying, do you think the BJP will get to it eventually? Politically, it may be so that getting their news out takes priority. Now that that's done, they will turn to academia so that the media doesn't openly oppose their takeover of academia. I think you'll find out the answers to this after 2026 Bengal elections. If they're serious about Bengal, if BJP ends up winning Bengal, you'll have to understand that they are probably going to do all the other stuff as well.
Come
Right.
with your Cerelac or whatever.
Right.
Till you don't get that, it's very difficult to bake.
Absolutely. It's what old timers used to call polish. It's a very strange word. Polish. वो polish पकड़ सकते हो आप किसी की English से.
I think that's the
वो-
filtering mechanism in some ways, right? The
See,
polish filtering mechanism.
they had to make some space for reserved category students in these spaces.
And the problem, the difference between us and them, us and these comic critics, is that they think that the polish is inherently bad, or that polish is being used that way. Let's say, there was a review of Srijit Mukherjee's film Zulfikar by an anonymous blogger, okay? And that review was written in a kind of English that was completely 100% unintelligible to me, who studied in a convent, who has studied in English medium schools class 3 onwards, and I read Harry Potter and English books all my life. I think after getting into English medium schools since class 3, and at that point I had already started reading Sri Aurobindo as well. उससे भी बदतर कोई इंग्लिश में लिखने का मेन आर्ग्यूमेंट ये था कि सृजित मुखर्जी इज गेटिंग अनफेयर क्रिटिसिज्म बिकॉज ऑफ जुल्फिकर फ्रॉम पीपल हु आर नॉट डूइंग एनीथिंग इन देयर ओन लाइव्स एटसेट्रा. जुल्फिकर इज अ बैड मूवी एटसेट्रा pretty much, but why be so rude to Srijit? So Srijit shared it and said that you see, he's saying these things even though he didn't like Zulfikar himself. So the comment section was hilarious in that Facebook post because people started saying it's what a great article. And especially one comment caught my eye. One person said gochano lekha, matlab very articulate way of writing things and saying things. Why is that polish inherently good, objectively good or better? Unintelligible English में लिख दिया तो वो गोछानो लिखा हो गया. What the fuck? And this is where I think the difference between them and us comes.
No, there's one thing. You guys may know it, may not. There is a author called Gayatri Spivak Chakraborty, who is a very famous literary theorist. Okay, she has an essay called "Can the Subaltern Speak?" You'll get it online very easily. उसका मेन लाइन यही है कि सबाल्टर्न कांट स्पीक. बेसिकली वो यही बोलना चाहती थी. ठीक है. If you can read it without a dictionary, I will give you maybe 10,000 rupees. If you can read it without a dictionary.
Are Sir Roger Scruton, a white British guy who is in England, he wrote that I could not understand anything Spivak wrote, and it's gobbledygook.
Exactly, and that is the power. But Spivak is considered a kind of god in Bengal and many other places. Like she goes to Columbia, NYU, Harvard. People are like, Spivak. Okay, people go crazy. Okay.
Yeah, and just few months back, she made that insane comment. She said that unless you pronounce Dubois' name properly, I'm not going to take your question. And she kept on disrespecting that.
Oh, yeah. You did a reaction to that, I think. Yeah.
Okay, let's continue.
Then with the OBC reservation, which comes in 2006, something fundamentally changes. अब क्या हो गया? With OBC reservation, even with 27%, class is now 50-50. Which means half the class is now SC/ST OBC. 2006 में याद है? 2007-8 से देख लो. IB schools, private universities are exploding.
The retreat.
To these because this is my big question, no? Like now if you see private universities, Ambani, Adani, Mahindra, Jindal, Goenka, koi munjal, koi nahi bacha hai. Everybody has put money in a private university. Fantastic, yaar. You're building the nation. Great. 2008 तक क्यों नहीं किया?
That's a great point. So many people talk about dismantling the public university and it's all very valid.
भाई मैं बोलूँ 2008 तक काहे नहीं किया? 2008 में ना एक चीज हुआ था. उसके बाद बैंक्स को पता चला कि हमने तो यहाँ पे हक दिया है, तो कोई हमारे पीछे ना पड़े इन द मार्क्सिस्ट इकोनॉमिक्स वे ऑफ थिंकिंग वाइज. हम कल्चरल मार्क्सिज्म जितना करे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, कोई हमारे पीछे नहीं आएगा. Follow Timple's stories on his initial days of journalism when he was covering the Occupy Wall Street movement. Randomly one fine morning, protesters who are not even known faces in those circles. Okay, the stories from Central Park in New York. Everyone is camping there. They have brought their tents and stuff. Protesters from all over the country have come there to protest against Wall Street after the 2008 crash. And randomly one fine morning, they see protesters who not everyone knew. They are going up on podiums and saying stuff like, okay, all the white people go back in the front rows. There will be only black people and Muslims or transgenders or handicapped people, etc. And that's the day onwards, people, right-wingers, Republicans, everyone who had up until that point been a part of that Occupy Wall Street movement, they get the shock of their lives. They are thinking, what the fuck are they talking about? Because race is not important here, because they were thinking like traditional Marxists up until that point. They thought, wait, it harms all of us. Equally in the same way. So we are all united against this situation, and we are all going to call for the breakup of those banks and protest any bailouts that they get from our taxpayers' money. Oh, no. The banks decided beforehand by manipulating humanities, the Chutia subject, which is not impactful at all, apparently, that no, let's fund them themselves and ask them to just get off our backs.
एक grassroots movement का पूरा कमर तोड़ दिया. They destroyed the grassroots movement completely. By just
अभी क्या चाहिए?
A few $1 billion, they just
go ahead. Yeah,
no, that's what I'm saying. They just funded academics in Ivy Leagues, in social sciences, who said critical race theory पढ़ना होगा. If you are white, you must apologize. Even if you are poor white, you must apologize. पूरा जो the Marxist movement in America was destroyed.
Yeah.
But then it became identity politics, cultural Marxism.
Yeah. Because they told those protesters that right now, what's your concern? तुम्हें अभी क्या चाहिए? मैं थोड़ा गरीब बनूं, तुम थोड़ा अमीर बनो, बैंक्स ब्रेकअप हो जाए, ये सब चाहिए तो नहीं नहीं, ये लो पैसे, मैं तुमको हेल्प करना चाहता हूँ और दिखाओ कि कहाँ पे ट्रांसजेंडर्स के साथ, ब्लैक्स के साथ क्या अत्याचार हो रहा है। उसके बाद ये जानने के बाद तुम्हें क्या चाहिए, मेरे बोर्ड मेंबर में एक एक हिजड़ा होगा या फिर कोई हैंडीकैप ब्लैक पर्सन होगा ना, वो दे देता हूँ तुम्हें, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, मेरे पीछे मत पड़ो।
But
They're doing
maybe
it.
that's the inflection.
They are saying it while sitting in a private university.
You said a very interesting thing a while back. You said you're more scared of progressive Savarnas attacking you than Hindutva Savarnas. There's been a lot of theorizing with respect to Hindutva and caste. A lot. Do you think Hindutva is slightly, ever so slightly less casteist than traditional forms?
I won't phrase it like that. What I will
काहे 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 नहीं फेस करेंगे आप?
phrase it is differently. If you see,
You said a very interesting thing a while back. You said you're more scared of progressive Savarnas attacking you than Hindutva Savarnas. There's been a lot of theorizing with respect to Hindutva and caste. A lot. Do you think
आई जस्ट वांट टू ऐड दैट अभी तो पार्टी शुरू हुई है शोएब भाई, कहाँ अभी प्रेशर कहाँ ले रहे हैं, रुकिए।
Hindutva is slightly, ever so slightly less casteist than traditional forms?
I won't phrase it like that. What I will phrase it is differently. If you see the BJP political party, I won't go into Hindutva and all. BJP as a political party, and all the institutions and mechanisms of power it represents and manifests in. Because it's not just an electoral entity, it has presence in culture, it has presence in bureaucracy, infrastructure, अलग-अलग affiliated एक formation है. They have made space for more of marginalized caste spaces compared to the kind of Stephens Doon formation we were talking about earlier.
The old ruling elite.
The old ruling elite. And that, I think, is also perhaps the reason why they are electorally and so formidable, because they have made these spaces. And in that sense, I think it's very instructive to see how the Indian nation and its institutions have evolved decade-wise. अब ये जो तबका है, इसका क्रिटिक बहुत भयंकर होता है, क्योंकि इसका पूरा का पूरा क्रिटिक is based on delegitimizing you. Right wing will come and just abuse you and go away. But ये जो section है, ये आपको delegitimize करेगा, आपको de-platform करेगा. Right? Right wing का fear is a fear of a mob. They can abuse you, they can threaten you. They'll, very rare cases, they'll beat you up. Right? But ये चपका जो है, they will ensure you'll never get a job. You're kind of soft-balled out of this whole thing. That's the fear.
Can you pause
for
for a
someone like
second?
me
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
in these spaces?
What a
There are
अरे यही तो प्रॉब्लम है लेफ्ट का, such a great scholar that some things he gets, I guess we just hate him because we disagree with him largely, but he is a pretty much a pretty good scholar.
No, he's saying
Yeah,
a
go
lot
ahead.
of right things. That's why I said it's not completely like bad. Okay, like he's raised a lot of good points. So, for example,
Yeah.
if you go to how Dr. Subhash Mukherjee was, his life was destroyed by the Communist Party. Okay,
Oh yeah.
not just him, many professors in Calcutta, great professors and teachers and intellectuals, they were not given jobs by the Communist Party. When they got jobs, like they have all the degrees and stuff, and the Communist Party ensured that they did not get those jobs. And they were hounded so bad that many of them committed suicide. Many of them, just died by depression and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
the left has always been like this. It's always been a witch hunt. It's a religion, right? The left is a religion. But ironically, this is the thing about the left, but they will co-opt the other section. So unko dekh ke, there are other people who are like, I'm in your team. And then they will give them a lot of benefits. It's not that the left destroys everyone's careers. The left is like, tum hamare saath ho, to we will like ensure you will end up in America with a green card and like $200,000 a year or something like that. So that is what the left is. If you join, you get hum hai to matlab we are there. We'll support support your entire life and career.
Yeah.
So many people I know, I can't even name them openly, but there are so many people in Delhi right now, in the Delhi social sciences, who just came to, there are a lot of Bengalis in Delhi, okay? Bengalis and Malayalis. These two people dominate humanities in Delhi. And guess why? Matlab, they are teaching they are teaching the people from other parts of this country how to be leftist, engineers, doctors,
Yeah.
whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
But they are all Bengalis and Malayalis who don't have Shingur factory, who don't have Ambani, Adani, but they are teaching the next batch of people, the elites of India, who are doctors, engineers, lawyers, and all these people. They are teaching them cultural Marxism. तो अब ले लो, क्या करना है देखो.
या एंड ये क्या अचानक एक ब्यूटीफुल एक युग मुहूर्त हो गया कि अनिकेत इज सेइंग दैट नाउ इवन दिस गाय इज ऑन पॉइंट द ऑथर हियर ऋषि इज आल्सो वी आर ऑल इन अग्रीमेंट ऑल ऑफ अ सडन अब हम सब मिलके कॉमिक्स को पकड़ेंगे चलो
राइट
रवाना
आप
होते
बहुत कम करेगा राइट राइट विंग का फियर इज द फियर ऑफ अ मॉब दे कैन अब्यूज यू दे कैन थ्रेटन यू दे वेरी रेयर केसेस दे विल बीट यू अप राइट बट ये तबका जो है दे विल इंश्योर यू नेवर गेट अ जॉब you're kind of soft balled out of this whole thing. That's the fear. Nice. For someone like me who's in these spaces, right? आप बहुत easily बिना आपको मारे मैं आपको बोलूंगा भी नहीं ऐसे कि I won't even need to say oh Ravikant oh he's very promising but there's a little bit of lacking of rigor.
Oh shit I am reminded of the conversation you had holy shit fuck this is exactly same everywhere.
Yes.
He makes a very very passionate but like the depth is अब इतना सा आपने बोल दिया ना खत्म right or his language is this one or this very fundamentalist assertion कुछ भी आप बोल दोगे उसमें वो खत्म हो जाएगा and it is not by accident that if you see that the political formation that has emerged under Modi has been very suspicious of this section clamored for Modi. They wanted him because they thought he under him like they'll get like the same patronage that the earlier formation.
This is an interesting thing that I want to dig into. So you're saying the BJP has made more space for non-Savarnas, and it's I think it's a statistical fact. Yet you also in your own book say that Modi is a Savarna champion.
Yeah,
Modi is really popular among Savarnas. So how does this circle square?
No. I say it slightly differently. What I'm trying to say is that if you see this arc trajectory of this formation जो मैं बोल रहा था MBS में आ गए अभी 40-50 हजार families हो गई जिसमें suddenly straight out of college 1 MBA degree you write one entrance exam MBA 2 years later you have an 8 lakh.
Very popular amongst this class,
right?
Not the old elite.
Not the old elite. No. वो they have a tacit softness for him. He's shown that he's not interested in working with Lutyens Delhi. They will pivot. वो आज भी यहाँ बैठे हैं कौन अरेस्ट हुआ है कोई अरेस्ट नहीं हुआ है कुछ नहीं हो रहा है right they're there but their lives are not easy. They're used to a certain kind of access which they no longer have right that's a big pivot.
I agree. So I went to engineering colleges. A small anecdote here. And so maybe I'm directly in contact with both the sort of Savarnas you're talking about. Maybe through journalism I'm in contact with the Stephens types, but through my engineering I'm in contact with the say small town Savarna.
Right.
Darbhanga se aaya hai.
Right.
Telangana se aaya hai. These people are crazily pro Modi.
Yeah.
Like kono kotha hobe na absolute.
Right.
Just but of course the old elite.
But इसमें भी मैं एक nuance डालूंगा that fascination for the Modi and the regime is qualitatively slightly different. See, my analysis is by early 2010-11, the contradictions of the Indian growth story were already self-evident. आपको दिखने लग गया था कि you are not going to become a superpower by 2020, which if you remember was the original deadline. It was not 2047. Early 2000s में मिशन 2020 हुआ करता था. वो तो होमवर्क का डेडलाइन चला गया वो ऐसे So as teachers we know कब आप होमवर्क दे रहे हो ये आएगा भी कि नहीं आएगा तो वो 2020 का डेडलाइन 2010 तक पता चल गया था नहीं जाएगा. And I think there was a bit of a crisis and a panic within the system, within the elites, because by the way, they ran the system. They were in policy think tanks. They were giving recommendations to all these politicians.
Who's they?
This elite Savarna.
The old elite Savarna.
Not the old elite Savarna. ये जो अभी एक नया section आपका MBA वगैरह
the post-liberalization
elite, right? This was the generation. Ours was the generation which was supposed to lift India to superpower status. That was our mandate. We were the chosen ones. हमने ही अपने आप को choose कर लिया.
In your book, you say liberalization was an attempt to create a new social order by Savarnas. What do you mean by that?
I don't know if I've said it was an attempt to create a new social order by Savarnas. I think by the end of the 80s, it's not a controversial statement to make. India was in a lot of its own inherent contradictions. The bureaucracy had rotted from the inside. There were way too many sub-nationalist issues that were fluctuating, and the economy was really where it was. So it created a new generation. In our era, people who are now in their late 30s, early mid 40s, पहली बार ऐसा possible था कि you come out of school, you write one entrance exam, you go into a top college, you do 2, 3, 4 years of study, you come out with a job which pays you lakhs. That's the great Indian dream. Education will set you free.
But is this dream open to everyone, or are you saying it's only open mainly to Savarnas?
That's very self-evident. It's very self-evident. But I'm saying in those
So
heady
this
days,
great liberalization dream, you're saying
What self-evident? What is self-evident here? Why is West Bengal, who was commie, now is not commie, preventing Hindu fascism, going on producing elites in only 3 castes? So how is it self-evident that BJP inherently, implicitly only does things that end up being good only for upper castes? Where is that self-evident? Now, I think we are probably going to do a separate podcast on this, but this was my plan to discuss with Academic Man that Muslims dominate Bollywood. It's because of other stuff, funding and stuff. We know that. But even in Bengal, what has CPIM or Trinamool achieved for Muslims? What have they done for Muslims in Bengal? Where are the Muslim poets and stuff, or actors and actresses that are apparently so good at creating words and languages that nobody in the country understands, and they dominate all other film industries in Bengal, in Kolkata? Why aren't there Muslim artists in Tollywood, or even other stuff, bureaucrats and stuff, big politicians? There are none. So where is the self-evident part coming from?
is only a dream
Of course.
made by and sold to Savarna.
of course, MBA पता ही नहीं था. आप अभी भी मैं बता रहा हूँ, like I have done outreach work in many parts of the country with Ambedkarite grassroots organizations, like Nalanda and in Varda. अभी भी in 2024,
So Nalanda is a Ambedkarite grassroots organization, or what? Or he was just listing the names?
No. I think he meant some organization.
25.
In Nalanda.
It is, you go and tell a group of people there is a college called JNU in Delhi. This is what Savarnas don't realize, just how deep India goes and how, like, you would think that, oh, 10 साल से Geo Revolution 4G आ गया है, सबको कुछ भी Google हो सकता है. नहीं, it is still revolutionary. You go there and say that there is a college in Delhi called JNU, जहाँ पर इतनी बड़ी library है, 24/7 open होती है. And I have seen kids like their eyes go like this, and these are like in 11th and 12th and all of that, right? This is still happening.
When you said how deep India goes, there's a bit in your book where there is a triangle which usually caste is represented, and you sort of, quote unquote, correct the triangle, and you put Savarnas or Dvij Savarnas right at the top in a very small section to correctly scale their population. So I find it very interesting that we were talking about race earlier, for example,
right.
race in the United States. When it comes to race, African Americans are a minority in the US.
Right.
But here, on the other hand, non-Savarnas are a vast majority. Like, there is no doubt about the numbers, hence the term Bahujan, and we'll come to that later in a bit. How does then this system hold when it's
Great question.
when there are so many people on the other side? It's such a unique global system of control, right?
It is unparalleled, and I have said this very often that to understand caste in South Asia, I don't think USA is a very good example. You need to actually look at apartheid era South Africa, right, in terms of population ratios and control. Now, where the South African apartheid regime was, what they did was they did apartheid through a legal framework which was enforced through coercive mechanisms of the state, right? Law bana diya.
देख रहा है विनोद कैसे इंटरनेशनल खेल रहे हैं. So very interesting. He made he's doing the same thing as Wilkerson. So first half of the sentence, you think that, oh, acha, bahut acha. Then it brings up bloody South Africa. Okay, which can you imagine? This is a country with reservations for 50% of the population and everything. Wahan pe bhi they bring up South Africa. So this is the new thing. Basically, they will now keep comparing, and we have to do the same comparisons, but in a more productive manner. This is the nuance lagega. You can't just you can deny. If you deny, there's a problem. So if you deny that, okay, Indian caste system is unique, then people will say, oh, that means Hinduism is casteist, or koi expression nahi hai. India is unique because it has Hinduism. If it's unique in terms of caste, then Hinduism is to blame for caste. Now if they say nahi, actually dekho, Hinduism ke jaise alag alag religion or countries mein there are castes, okay, or whatever, discrimination and whatnot. Then you have to say, okay, if the discrimination was there, racial discrimination, apartheid kind of discrimination, that kind of discrimination, and how is it different from let's say so-called Savarna discrimination or dominant caste discrimination? So this is where the nuance will have to head, and for this you need highly talented individuals who will bring out the who will know the history and sociology of this country like really well, who can challenge these things when he says it. When he says apartheid state, he forgets that there was actual segregation and all that, but there was no legal segregation between Brahmins and non-Brahmins and all that. Even court.
Manusmriti is a law book, so legality comes from Manusmriti.
Yeah, but Manusmriti मान के तो कोई like nobody actually ruled as per the Manusmriti, right? Like if they did, then most Brahmins would run away. Okay. The truth of the matter is somebody wrote some books, some Brahmin people wrote a book, and some people just kept writing and stuff, and it got circulated. But if you look at it in this way, if you think about it, most ruling classes of India, with the exception of Bengal and a few other places, are actually people who came up from the grassroots, like Jats, like Gurjars, like Yadavs, like Lingayats, and this. So, if at all we have to think that okay, then Brahmins are like 5% of the population and they command 95% people. That's not true, because if you go to other parts of the country, Brahmins do not dominate. So this kind of nuance you need from social scientists to kind of critique this very, very lazy comparison with South Africa again.
Should
Yes,
the
Brahmins
different
dominate
villages,
some
different neighborhoods in different villages being dedicated to or being allowed for only specific castes like Banerjee Pada, Mathur Pada, Muchi Pada, etc., should they be considered a proof of segregation then between castes?
No, there was not. So here's another thing. If you look at the works of Mikhail Actor, okay, he shows how the reason for a large section of people practicing untouchability was also because Brahmins could not segregate properly. Like the segregation was incomplete. You had to allow people to walk in near your house. You had to meet them. You had to allow them to clean your latrines. You had to depend on them for different kinds of housework and stuff. So untouchability actually was kind of there because like people tried to implement untouchability because these were people who were entering your life on a daily basis. But if you look at, let's say, something like how America was segregated, let's say, or South Africa, there were entire townships where you would not see a black person or a white person. Okay. The racial segregation was not only enforced by class, by race, it was also enforced geographically, so that a black person would stay in that part of the country and a white person, entirely white population, would stay in a different part of the country. But precisely that is the reason why you can't make such lazy comparisons.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is where the nuance, you need more studies of history and sociology to understand why it's different. And again, like I said, Brahmins don't dominate in every part of the country. If a Brahmin goes to Haryana and tells a Jat, "Bhai, I am superior to you," let's see what happens. Okay, Jat will not agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is kind of what Surinder Singh Jodhka was also saying, right? The professor from
Yes.
JNU.
Yes.
That matlab agar British, the stuff that you have also said, that the informers of British, when they first started writing things and doing early proto-sociology and stuff with their texts, they were talking to mainly Tamil Brahmins and Bengali Brahmins and some Marathi Brahmins.
Yes.
Later on. Therefore, they thought Brahmins are everything. And
ironically, all three places had Brahmin elites, like very significant presence of Brahmin elites.
because you
Maharashtra,
can't
Tamil Nadu,
ignore
and
geography and climate.
yes. Again, but what happens now is when you go to a place like I said, Haryana, Punjab, all of Uttar Pradesh and all, Brahmins are not so powerful. So this is the problem. Like if we keep using that term, then we're not even, the left has not moved on from British colonial anthropology, and neither have we, basically.
Yeah.
Legal framework to understand caste in South Asia. I don't think USA is a very good example. You need to actually look at apartheid era South Africa, right? In terms of population ratios and control. Now, where the South African apartheid regime was, what they did was they did apartheid through a legal framework which was enforced through coercive mechanisms of the state, right? Law bana diya. The Indian state hasn't gone down that route. यहाँ law नहीं बना है, law बनाने की जरूरत नहीं है. It is culturally enforced and constantly new and more dynamic responsive forms of policy and knowledge production will be created, which will keep this apartheid in place, right? And it has multiple dimensions to it. You can pick up, which is why when I talk about caste, and hence the point of the whole book, I'm not so interested in caste from a point of social justice. I'm looking at caste from an epistemic point of knowledge production, right? Who gets to produce what kind of knowledge and what are its implications, right?
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is in the Indian nation,
What does epistemic mean?
epistemic मतलब source कहाँ से आ रहा है, right? तो caste अगर आपको, to give an example, if you want to study the mediocrity of post-liberalization Indian business models, right? I'm not so interested in which billionaire in this. I'm more interested like they're banya billionaires. Caste से ही आप अगर सोचना शुरू करोगे तो आपको उसका बहुत सारा limitations
I'm
दिख
going to
जाएगा.
come back to the Banya thing in a minute, but one thing that I want to add also to this thing is I think Dr. Ambedkar has a very interesting thing of graded inequality.
Yes.
So I would also draw a difference with apartheid, where there were again, two very separated silos, and here the system is so kind of complex, right? Like so, which is why maybe it's, when we talk about apartheid South Africa, how long did that?
Yeah.
ये तो हमारा पॉइंट बोल दिया. ये क्या हुआ?
आप अगर सोचना शुरू करोगे तो आपको उसका बहुत सारा limitations
I'm
दिख
going to
जाएगा.
come back to the Banya thing in a minute, but one thing that I want to add also to this thing is I think Dr. Ambedkar has a very interesting thing of graded inequality.
Yes.
So I would also draw a difference with apartheid, where there were again, two very separated silos, and here the system is so kind of complex, right? Like so, which is why maybe it's. When we talk about apartheid South Africa, how long did that state last? A few decades.
Of course, because racial lines are very clear. It's on your skin, right? You see my skin, you know where I stand in the racial divide. In a caste
फंस गया है अपने आर्गुमेंट में फंस गया. Let's see what it does.
divide, that's not how it is. Also, what has happened in post-independent India, in independent India, basically, the marker of Jat has become.
And what he added, that race is visible on the skin. Didn't you make this argument somewhere?
Yes.
culturally
Absolutely.
coded with a lot of other things. So, how you clear? It's on your skin, right? You see my skin, you know where I stand in the racial divide. In a caste divide, that's not how it is. Also, what has happened in post-independent India, in independent India, basically, the marker of Jat has become culturally coded with a lot of other things. So, how you dress, how you speak, where you stay, where you studied, is actually a far better marker for me. And it is so universally applicable that we never actually have to talk about caste to the point to invisibilize caste. So in that sense, it is very unique and unparalleled, right?
This is Yangre's
It
point.
is not as if in India, this has been accepted. There has been constant resistance.
What is Yangre's point?
This ये जो तुम्हारा जहाँ रहते हो, जो खाते हो, पहनते हो, ये है. Yangre says this is the same as this visibility of this marker and visibility of your consumption pattern or जो भी हो, ये is the same as, let's say you see a black guy in the US and a white guy, as the same. So this is the lazy part of the argument all of them are making, and this is why popular arguments will always have a drawback. So Donald R. Davis has this book, has this paper where he critiques Wilkerson. Okay, critiques na, he supports her, but he does that in a very weird way. He says that in the Dharma Shastras and all, there is a clear indication that you can't know a Brahmin by looking at him. Okay, so maybe his clothes, his stuff, that can tell you what the law says. So he's a Brahmin. That's why he's a Brahmin. So basically, then he says, but actually, देखो caste तो marker ही है. So in Wilkerson is right. Okay. So I was like, what the fuck? Like he's saying the exact opposite thing. That there are actually if you look at the Dharma Shastras and all this, they actually say कि if you take a Brahman and other caste, you can't say who is a Brahman and who is what, unless the law of the land and some other things say so. And that is precisely why race and caste cannot be compared at that point. Like, ये जो visible marker बोल रहा है, in a more liberalized setting where there people can become wealthy overnight. Okay, like you do a startup and you become a crorepati in a year or two. Then there will be no objective difference between him and another rich guy. Okay, he can buy the same clothes and stuff. Yes, socialism का problem है कि in socialism these differences will always be maintained because there is no scope for upward mobility. But that's the problem. Like liberalization, but they say that मतलब देखो ये दिख रहा है वो दिख रहा है, but they can't tolerate the fact that liberalization is the reason that perhaps many people like Jats and all the maybe people who were lower in the so-called ritual hierarchy are now actually dominant castes and more powerful. OBCs are more powerful than anyone right now in India. So they can't, like, that is the other irony that they are not accepting, essentially.
You see, I think their arguments are on the precipice, on the verge of getting thrown into a cliff. They are standing right at the edge of the cliff. We are not giving them a push because they are on the verge of saying it out loud that Hinduism has nothing to do with caste. That sentence is not going to come out of their mouths, of course.
No,
But
never,
अभी तो
never.
यहाँ पे पियर बोर्डियू को पकड़ते पकड़ते रह गया. How
Exactly.
you consume, what you consume, वो सब भी बोल दिया, मगर it has to be connected with Hinduism. And if at all it's not
Yes.
connected with Hinduism because of race and stuff, even then those tangents and perimeters of looking at caste, all of a sudden they use wrong data or weird shit. But also want to go on with villainizing India, whereas its caste sustains because of the lack of industrialization and free markets and even mediocrity, encouraging mediocrity, a downward spiral of ambitions for everyone in the country. Those stuff, those universal stuff which may or may not exist because of religion or race, even if it is the same as race, why is it then
Yes.
universal? Then solve it with universal fucking solutions. You can't have specific that this only applies for India. Who cares what happens in the West? All of a sudden again trads and commies become friends. No, free market can't happen in India. We have to protect our environment. अरे casteism तो रहेगा ही, रहने दो, ठीक है.
Most-
Casteism हम
Most
push
commies
away
come
कर
from
देंगे.
trad families, if you think about it. Very, very weird.
Rishi is asking, how is food consumption pattern related to caste? The same reason that you can't dress up in like me, like a fucking homeless guy and enter a fine dining restaurant, okay? For those reasons.
To this. And I mentioned about the Kanchiram and the Bahujan Samaj Party movement. Like the Bahujan movement is a fantastic, I call it a nation building project. Because Dr. Ambedkar is saying every caste is a nation unto itself. So if you have like 7,000 castes in India, there's 7,000 nations all stacked on top of each other on the same geography, right? Each acts as onto their own. So Rajdeep Sardesai will be saying, talking about Sardesai pride when a cricketer of his community, वो निकल आता है.
I find it very instructive that in Hindi, very often a polite word for caste is samaj.
Right.
अपने आप में एक समाज है.
समाज है वो एक nation है, right? And some of these nations are allied with each other. So the Savana nations, if I may say so, by using
Stacked on top of each other, इसमें कोई कंसेंसस नहीं है एकेडेमिया में, ठीक है? इरफान हबीब पॉइंट आउट करते
Yes.
हैं कि तो भाई पहले तो ऋग्वेद में भी नहीं था, कहाँ से आया बाद में? एंड दीपंकर गुप्ता argues in 2002 that there is no stacked on top of each other, okay? Different people are stacked up on top of each other in different parts of the country, in different villages of the country, as said by Hitesh Ranjan Sannal as well.
this analogy, their interests align but also differ in very interesting ways, right? तो बनिया समाज और ब्राह्मण समाज के बीच में एक फिक्शन है, but बहुत सारी चीजों में alignment भी है. So they operate, in very, very interesting ways. Nobody is asking the question, which is why epistemic is very important for me. Nobody asking the question like, what is the Banya vision of a nation? Gandhi is the Banya. Hardly anybody calls him a Banya leader.
In fact, you have an interesting point in your book where you say that in the modern age, the main tool of Brahmanism, actually Banya is not Kshatriya, the main weapon.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Because now the corporate nation, the corporatized economy and the structures of power no longer require your regional fiefdom lords. Their power is no longer as useful till it was even as recent as the 70s, I would imagine. अब आपको उसकी जरूरत नहीं है.
एक्सेप्ट इन बंगाल जहाँ पे फ्यूडलिज्म कभी बंद ही नहीं हुआ है, नहीं हुआ. तो
Yes.
बीबीकेस का रिप्लेसमेंट मोरलेस कौन होगा? तृणमूल का गुंडा होगा.
Absolutely.
Institutions have taken a different form. Now corporate wealth is more important. And we saw this in 2024 election. There were many, I think in UP and even in parts of, I think, Rajasthan or Gujarat, I forget. There were Kshatriya groups, Rajputs, Thakurs, who were very upset. They were saying, like, look, BJP takes a vote for granted, right? Because why wouldn't they? Because they're like, oh, tum kise vote karoge? Right? We are your party, right? And they were actually upset. And, there are all these news stories. One reads about, like, Ayodhya and Banaras, which are being, massive real estate development is happening. If you look closely, वहां पर भी आपको फ्रिक्शन दिख रहा है. गुजराती कैपिटल आ रहा है. वहां का जो लोकल है वो एक्चुअली ग्राउंड रिपोर्ट में जाओगे आपको दिख जाएगा फ्रिक्शन. दे आर सीइंग दिस.
काफी गुस्सा चिड़चिड़ाहट है.
हाँ बिल्कुल है. So there is definitely a realignment which is happening.
कैलकाटा में देखो, सबसे बड़ा तो आपका मिसाल वहां पर है. There's a lot of friction against say local Brahmins and Banya capital from Rajasthan.
And that is my big point कि, and I've written about this also, कि इस पे एक स्टडी दिखा दो मेरे को. कैलकाटा से इतने सोशियोलॉजिस्ट एंड इकोनॉमिस्ट निकले हैं in Indian academia, and then like people have like gone abroad and all. Show me one study which looks at Bada Bazaar as a site. You mentioned Haldiram Parathas while we were on the break. Haldiram कहाँ से शुरू हो रहा है? Right? All these that market, like there are parallel
Good stuff here. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I just want to address this one. Towards Truth is saying, can't we create policies against caste since it is clearly creating open discrimination? देखो भाई, policy और क्या करना क्या बाकी रह गया है? Casteism तो illegal है ही. The only thing left to be done is what Savarkar had recommended. कि कास्ट रिकॉग्नाइज करना ही छोड़ दो. वी आर जस्ट सिटीजंस ऑफ द कंट्री. कास्ट बोलना जब तक इंसेंटिवाइज करेगा, कास्ट याद रखना इंसेंटिवाइज करेगा, तब तक कास्टिज्म तो नहीं जाएगा.
And honestly, silence on our part is not a solution either. silence in the part of indicting is not the solution, because the left will keep doing it. Like I told you guys, these kind of intellectuals will keep coming from the left. You can't control that. Kyunki inka paisa kahan se aa raha hai, you don't know. You might you can't do censorship in the age of the internet, right? So these ideas will come from somewhere or the other. So stopping, if you want to stop talking about caste, it won't happen anytime soon. So you have to have your own words on caste. You have to have your own narrative of caste.
Yeah.
and all. Show me one study which looks at Bada Bazaar as a site. You mentioned Haldiram Parathas while you were on the break. Haldiram kahan se shuru ho raha hai? Right? All these that market, like there are parallel ecosystem developed. Birla ke schools wahan par alag hai, right? Unke colleges alag hai, right? There's very little crossover even today between these two worlds. The Jain, Gujarati, Banya, Khatri, Punjabi, ye jo hai, they hang out between themselves, right? And they look at all these Bengalis and they're like, oh, ye sara din aise, culture karte rehte hain, inko paisa nahi banana hai. And they look at these guys and saying, oh, these guys have no culture, they sirf paisa banate hain, inko bas khali raat ko drive mein jana hai aur milkshake pina hai, raat ko 2 baje kahin highway pe jaakar hai. That's a very strong culture. Yeah. There you go. Satyajit made like 33 films. How many of them have Marwadi characters? Such a big. By the way, so many of his films are funded by Marwadi Banya characters.
And all of them shows Marwadis as villains. Yes, the villains are Marwadis.
Yes.
Rishi is saying, भाई गवर्नमेंट कास्ट सर्टिफिकेट देता है तो कैसे नहीं होगा, तो गवर्नमेंट को ही बंद करना चाहिए.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
Right.
I mean, and usually Marwadi characters come in with a slight negative tone.
Yes.
Like maybe not as a villain, but maybe they're never a very positive character.
Never. So, एक जैन लड़का अगर है, जैन गुजराती समाज से, young 18, 19, 20 year old, who's growing up in Calcutta, city which speaks Bangla, right? And you're Marwadi, let's say. आपके घर पे मारवाड़ी में बात हो रही है. आपका existential crisis कौन सी फिल्म में है, मेरे को दिखाओ. Show me where is a cultural representation of that. Don't you have a claim in the city? 3 generation से 4 generation से आप भी कलकत्ता में हो, right? तो वो knowledge ही नहीं वैसे produce हुआ है, right? So we need to see it in that structural sense. So they have friction between those things, but in a lot of cases, that same Banya Marwadi and the Bhadralokes, their policies align in a lot of cases.
And all of them are Trinamool voters, by the way, and they don't want to admit.
Yes.
It's a
All of them,
which is why they operate like one entity in that sense.
Yeah.
One thing that I've read your entire book, Ravikant, and you very rarely use the word Bahujan except when quoting other people. You were talking about Kanshiram, you said he started the Bahujan movement, so then you're using it, but otherwise it doesn't seem like it's a term you're very fond of.
Fond is not the word for it. I think, see, Bahujan movement, if one looks at it, it's important to have the semantic difference of how are we making sense of it, right? Again, I'll use a historical lens because that's how I talk. Post-independent India, from Nehru's client estate, I've spoken about it, you see the Lohiite caste coalition experiments. But the Lohiite caste coalitions jo ho raha hai, wo basically ho raha hai, in this jila or this area, your caste will bring 10% votes, hers will bring 8, his will bring 7, mine will bring 10. We combine it, kuch 38-40% vote aa raha hai, ab hum aapas mein we will divide the shit. That's a basic caste arithmetic. But we are not really mixing your samaj with mine. It's very simple. You got 12% vote, 2 minister तुम्हारे, 2 इसका. That's the broad agreement. In your territory, अगर मेरा candidate होगा, तुम्हारे लोग मेरे को vote करेंगे, vice versa.
I mean, I think the technical term political science uses is consocialism. Yeah. It's a very consocialist system where like for example, caste will be counted. कितने MPs इस समाज के हैं. Like everybody looking out for that.
They're looking for the share of power.
It's a very separated share of power, but it's a separate share of power.
Where the Bahujan movement comes in, what Kanshiram is trying to do early on, and then Mayawati also, is what they're trying to do is they are not only adding up castes, but they're trying to samaj ka milap. They're trying to say कि देखो तुम OBC हो या
SC हो, to create a majority,
which is ideologically bound. And ideologically bound by what? By the idea of annihilation of caste, right? That is a very interesting evolution. Now, if you look at it politically, BSP is not winning the votes, but I think the Bahujan movement is not a failure. It succeeded beyond its metrics. Nobody was talking to you actually.
The BJP has gone out.
BJP is now gone. Yeah. They've taken every micro percentage and added it up. Rahul Gandhi is talking about caste census. Last year was a very funny scenario where BJP Congress fighting in Parliament. No, we respect Baba Sahib more. We respect Baba Sahib more. Baba Sahib का statue हर जगह लगाया जा रहा है. कौन लगा रहा है? BSP नहीं लगा रही है. Other parties are putting up. In that.
So then when you're saying that, then why aren't you using the word Bahujan? Is that?
I'm coming to that. So my point is, electorally speaking, this success has been there. Where I think the Bahujan movement has not got its results is in the cultural mandate, which is the annihilation of caste, which has an element of reaching out to Buddha, the idea of Buddha as a Buddhism as the original anti-caste movement, which goes back 2,500 years. I think that mandate has not really taken root, and it has not taken root primarily because if you notice who the Bahujan movement is supposed to fundamentally bring together. It is the scheduled caste. There's an ST movement, but ST movement is different, depends on the region and everything. It is the OBCs.
Dalit and OBCs.
Dalit OBC. OBC में भी आप जाओगे, there will be 2,000-3,000 castes within the central state OBC units. Rohini Commission data is saying that about 45 to 50 castes out of 2,000 have taken away all the OBC benefit. और यही जो 45 castes हैं OBC की, इनके पास लैंड भी है, इनकी पॉलिटिकल पावर्स भी है, दे आर रीजनल डोमिनेंट पार्टीज चला रहे हैं. डोमिनेंट कास्ट बोल सकते हो, राइट? दिस कास्ट हैज बीन द मोस्ट हॉस्टाइल टू द बहुजन मूवमेंट. अभी आप देख रहे
मंदिर में घुसना प्रिवेंट कौन करता है? ब्राह्मण तो माने आज के दिन में स्पेशली पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस में तो सारे वो सब तो चुतिया पाता ओबीसीज के हाथों से हुआ है.
तो यही कास्ट पिवट करके जैसे
It's true across India. It's true even in places like Tamil Nadu.
Absolutely.
It's a pan-India phenomenon almost.
Absolutely. So I feel that the scheduled caste movement or the scheduled caste activists, intellectuals, thinkers, politicians have done great amount of labor, political labor, intellectual labor, activist labor, to fight for the rights of OBC, dominant OBCs even. जबकि the favor has never been fundamentally returned.
Yeah, well, of course there will be exceptions, and your family is probably an exception. But my data is not the funding, so I'm not blaming them for funding TMC. Show me the Marwari-dominated places where TMC doesn't win. That's the data.
Reservation
By the dominant OBC.
Yes, it has not happened, right? And 2006 when the OBC reservation happens, a lot of scheduled castes are fighting for OBC rights, right? कास्ट सेंसस में भी ओबीसी का काउंटिंग होगा ना, एससी का तो काउंटिंग
हो गया ऑलरेडी,
हो गया, राइट? तो कौन लड़ रहा है सबसे ज्यादा? किसने ये मुद्दा उठाया? इज द शेड्यूल कास्ट. बट अब ओबीसी देखो फॉर
आप कह रहे हो दलित इंटेलेक्चुअल्स ने पूरी कोशिश की मगर रेसिप्रोसिटी नहीं आई ओबीसी की तरफ से.
नहीं आया है, एंड ये फैक्ट है.
दिस इज व्हाई द बहुजन टर्म हैज नॉट सोशली बीन एक्सेप्टेड.
फॉर मी नो, एंड देयर इज वन मोर डायमेंशन. सो फॉर मी पर्सनली दिस इज व्हाई आई स्टिक अवे फ्रॉम इट. ओबीसी इंटेलेक्चुअल
कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल कैटेगरीज.
आई एम एससी ओबीसी. देख लो आप ओबीसी थिंकर्स जो है. How many OBC thinkers in Delhi we have the example who started out by talking about Baba Saheb and then slowly when it suited them like went over to the power side. तो ये betrayal.
Who are you talking about? बहुत specific
एग्जांपल दीजिए. एक टाइम था ट्विटर पे मतलब बहुत ऐसे OBC इंटेलेक्चुअल्स थे.
Are you talking about Dilip Mandal?
Dilip Mandal sir का example is very open, yeah, right? And I'm sure Dilip Mandal, if you meet him in person, would have no objection to the statement. क्योंकि उनको शेड्यूल का समाज एक तरीके से आज देख रहा है, उनको पहले अलग तरीके से देखा जाता था, right? And there is definitely a feeling. Right, तो मैं इसीलिए बहुजन. अच्छा, the other reason is Savarna knowledge production is very interesting. Savarna elites have picked up the word बहुजन. अब सबसे ज्यादा बहुजन कौन यूज कर रहा है? Savarna elite यूज कर रहा है. देखो ओबीसी तो
क्यों सबसे ज्यादा बहुजन वर्ड सवर्ण एलिट की यूज कर रहा है?
It's something that I haven't really fully understood or decoded, but it's a phenomenon I started noticing that a lot of the Savarnas are talking about, they're using words like DBA, बहुजन, right? Somehow it kind of feels less sharp to me. Also for me a clue there is scheduled caste समाज में they will not say, like if I am a SC and you're an SC, we will say Dalit, we will say SC or something like that. बहुजन बहुत रेयरली बोलता है भाई. ओबीसी समाज में तो कोई बोल ही नहीं रहा, राइट? जो लोअर्ड ओबीसी है या जो डीनोटिफाइड ट्राइबल्स है वो विमुक्ता भी यूज करते हैं, वो भी आपको बहुजन नहीं बोल रहा है. सो फॉर मी इट जस्ट फील्स like this very performative thalification of these caste identities,
which has no ground reflection.
Exactly. Bahujan movement was a fantastic cultural, social, political experiment. It ran its course. At its peak, Mayawati comes to power on her own in UP. But even in that election, देखो ना, BSP को वोट पड़ा किससे? ब्राह्मण और दलित have come together. Actually, OBC वोट नहीं पड़ा. 2019 में when SP BSP combined, that is BSP's main point that Yadavs, even though they're in alliance, Yadavs will go and vote for BJP and not vote for BSP. So there's a big rejection. Now SP is coming and saying पिछड़ा दलित आदिवासी. PDA हुआ के बोल रहा है अखिलेश यादव, right?
The world's greatest acronym.
I am pretty sure he knew what he was doing. The man was cooking. He knew exactly what this was. But for me, therefore, the word Bahujan becomes loaded, right? I don't want to hide behind it, right? I come under the constitutional category of OBC. Let me say I'm OBC, right? And let me acknowledge this idea of. And मैं ये भी बोलूँगा for other OBC thinkers. This is like a lot of times OBC thinkers don't like me. वो क्या करेंगे? ऐसे OBC एक organization बनाएंगे, फिर उसका पोस्टर उठा के देखो. वो क्या करेगा ना ऐसे? बाबा साहब पे एक फोटो डालेगा. Shahu Maharaj, Jyotiba Phule, Periyar, because they come from OBC. So they're like, oh, Baba is one pantheon you're trying to create. Why are you doing that? Put Baba Sahib centrally acknowledge करो ना. क्यों नहीं acknowledge कर रहे हो? Baba Sahib ने तो कभी नहीं बोला कि Jyotiba को I don't. It's one lineal tradition, right? So then why are you trying to create this semiotic? If I see the signage and graphic design of it, semiotically तो आप कर रहे हो ना. तो ये मेरे को थोड़ा मतलब personally.
Religion, culture, superstitions, rituals कभी जाएंगे नहीं, इसीलिए देखो क्या क्या प्रायोरिटी है इनका. पोस्टर में तस्वीर काहे इसका नहीं दिया, उसका काहे दे दिया. ये सब के सब कल्ट है, सब कुछ दुनिया में कल्ट ही है.
करता है. So because I'm very emphatic in that. I will say Jai Bhim. That doesn't mean I love the work of Jyotiba Phule. We are all indebted to it. Jyotiba Phule and Periyar and all. But I'm not going to say Jai Bhim, Jai Periyar. मैंने बोल दूंगा, ऐसे नहीं है, मतलब ऐसा कोई ऑब्जेक्शन नहीं है मेरा. Like I love, like I.
But it will not organically come out from you.
No.
Right? अगर कोई बोलेगा.
There's no need. When you say Jai Bhim, it implies this.
It's a.
Yeah, it is implied in this.
It's a mega umbrella for
many
of these things.
We call it the Ambedkarite movement. No? So that intellectual honesty, I feel I need to be very clear in this as an OBC, which is why I will say it like that. That's the reason why I've used constitutional category words. I have no objection with anybody who uses Bahujan. Great. Like, I have a great respect for it, for Kanshi Ram Sahib, Bahujan Samaj Party, the movement. There are people who still hardcore believers of it, old school Bamsef people. More power to them. But ये मेरा personal decision.
Are you bitter, Ravikant?
ये कैसा Karan Thapar type question है? Bitter for what?
Are you, like, with respect to, because I feel some bitterness coming out of your book. Is it written out of some bitterness?
You
Anger, bitterness?
No, man, I'm absolutely not bitter. I think, and I've written this also, that although my book says meet the Savarnas, and I speak very critically about Savarnas, and a lot of times Savarnas feel very attacked. Don't feel attacked. I like you all. I love them all, right? I have many Savarna friends whose kindness, followers, fans, who keep me from being bitter. There is a softness with which they listen to me.
I would just want to point out that, yeah, you just use the I have many Savarna friends bit.
हाँ, कोई objection नहीं है. It doesn't work translate the same way when you flip it.
Why doesn't it?
There's something called hierarchies of power, right? So if a white person says, I have many black friends, that sounds a little different than a black person saying, oh, I have many white friends. I'm not bitter towards white.
So you don't actually, like, when you're saying, so you're saying this book is not written out of any bitterness towards Savarna.
Why would it? The title says meet the Savarnas. मिल लो ना. अच्छे लोग हैं, मिल लो. Many of them are genuinely trying to do the right thing. And I think one of my reasons to write this book is that I think Savarnas don't have access to their own cultural commentary in a critical way. Right? Because they usually will either only hear hagiographies and like these narratives, grand narratives, but they have never been the subject of the study themselves. They are subjects of every other study, right? So this is also my attempt to try and bridge that gap, which is why I say it's just, I hope it's a start, right? Even if this book is critiqued and attacked, and in that sense, it still succeeds because it is still contributing to a conversation. So that's what it is. I have no bitterness towards it. Bitterness implies that I'm upset over something that I should have had. I've got a lot. मेरे समाज से अगर आप कंपेयर करोगे मैं बहुत प्रिविलेज हूँ और बहुत लोगों की मेहनत से यहाँ तक आया हूँ. So I to write in the book also. My book is pretty mediocre. It's just words on pages. I don't think there is. You write bitter tweets. You don't write bitter books. It's too much of an endeavor, right? So it's a labor of love, and I genuinely hope Savarnas read it and they see the care that I have taken to unpack their culture. Even if it is critical, it's not meant to be angry and accusatory. It's not that. It's care I have put to decode your cultural realities, reflect on it, think about it, agree with it, discuss it, disagree with it. I hope they see that part of it. So that's where I'm coming from.
Final question, Ravikant. Is there a message you'd like to give to a young Bahujan watching this interview?
पढ़ाई पे ध्यान दो, करियर बनाओ, go ahead in life. That's it.
पढ़ाई पे ध्यान दो, मगर तुम अगर थोड़ा कम भी पढ़ लिए, थोड़ा कम मार्क्स भी मिल गए, फिर भी तुमको नौकरी भी मिलेगा. और प्राइवेट सेक्टर में नौकरी नहीं मिला तो वहाँ पे तुम्हारे लिए कुछ व्यवस्था हम कर भी देंगे, आप देख लीजिए. और नहीं तो हम बोलेंगे कि हमारे यहाँ से इस भाषा बोलने वाले लेबरर्स ही लेने पड़ेंगे, नहीं तो हो सके नहीं फैक्ट्री बनाने देंगे, नहीं तो वहाँ पे जाके बवाल कर देंगे. पढ़ेगा कब? इतना सारा काम है उसको.
There's nothing else to it. Those are the basic things. I've written this in the book also. Because our lives are very, very fraught. And I've seen this happen where one person from a community, one village comes out, they actually pull 5, 7, 10 people in very short time. The entire community transforms. So that is...
हाँ, मगर क्या नाम है इसका? रविकांत किसाना. तो प्रॉब्लम है कि what he considers to be success of these discourses, or what he entails to be the end of casteism or decrease in casteism, वहाँ पे तो सबसे बड़ा घपला है. वहाँ पे अगर अभी जो बोल रहा है, अगर ये फ्री मार्केट के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में देखे, कैपिटलिज्म के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में देखे, हाँ, one guy becoming rich or successful in the village because of the investment that happened in that village or nearby that village, everyone else benefits. Yes, rising tides lift all boats. इसीलिए तो और भी फ्री मार्केट कैपिटलिज्म और ईज ऑफ बिजनेस करना है, टैक्सेस कम करवाना है ताकि और ज़्यादा लोग ये सब कर पाए. इसलिए और डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन चाहिए, इसलिए और ब्रेकअप्स ऑफ स्टेट्स चाहिए.
Too much to give up based on getting caught up in some discursive idea of change and fight. Change and fight doesn't happen like that. You live your life, you follow your career path to its natural conclusion, you succeed, you prosper, and along with you bring 5, 7, 10 more people in. That's it. That's my message at all. If at all this book helps you understand the Savarna cultures around you, great. Don't use this book to go and fight with people. That's not the point, right? It's just there as a cultural study.
Don't fight with people. Let us end on that note. Thank you so much, Ravikant, for joining us. This has been a very long and very intense, but I think very rewarding conversation.
Thank you for having me and for your patience and grace and tolerating my spiel. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching, viewers. If you like the journalism that we do, I want you to do two things. One, go to scroll.in/contribute and support what we do. And number two, Ravikant,
Like and subscribe.
to our
Okay, so that's the end of this podcast. I'll just show you what's up with my. Oh, yeah, here it is. So you see, for the people who don't know about this yet, I am a music producer and I'm making a music video which on my version of the Kal Bhairav Ashtakam, which is going to feature a lot of great artists and a lot of great actors and stuff, and even Bengal's martial artists. The reason I put this up as a let's say a symbolizing picture or image to make people think of the video, I'm doing a crowdfunding for that, is because the location we have selected is pretty much this only. Anyway, so this is the goal, 3.5 lakh rupees, and this is my message for those who are interested in donating and supporting my venture here. The goal here is to win some narrative battles and create the biggest, most significant, impactful music video to have come out of West Bengal in our lifetimes. I think before our lifetimes, music videos did not exist, so it's going to be in our lifetimes anyway. But let me just read out to you my message and why am I making this video? Why am I seeking funds? Because I want the right wing to counter things properly and with their own money, not seeking help from the government, etc. So far, I have made sure that I don't ask any leftist for funds. It is going to be surrounding. The story is going to surround one particular social evil, a societal injustice problem. I'm not revealing that right now, but it's going to be associated with Kal Bhairav as well, and Kal Bhairav's upasakas and sadhakas and sadhikas, which will be relevant, which will be acceptable, a universal angle of the story to leftists as well. But in the process, there will be battles and normalizations in the narrative sector that you will find out and realize only after the video is done, because I'm not revealing the pretty significant storyline concept screenplay that I have myself written. So the message is from Vanga for Bharat. I'm Niranjan Shah, music producer and the sole creator behind the YouTube channel College Street, Kolkata. The campaign is an invitation to support why I'm doing this, okay? Is an invitation to support my most ambitious project yet, Kal Bhairav Ashtakam Vigilance. That's the full name of the song, okay? That will be the full name of the song. Kal Bhairav Ashtakam Vigilance. A groundbreaking, genre-defying music video that reimagines the 8th century Sanskrit Stotram by Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya. Rooted deeply in Vanga's cultural ethos, the composition fuses Bengal's folk traditions, resulting in a powerful, groovy, and cinematic musical experience. Yes, it will be cinematic as fuck. Why this project matters? Mainstream Indian pop culture has long sidelined voices that are rooted in Bharatiya traditions. Far too often, culturally grounded characters, especially Sanskrit-speaking ones, are caricatured as foolish, villainous, or irrelevant. This portrayal has unfortunately shaped perceptions for generations, leading many to believe that being deeply connected to one's roots is incompatible with being a good human, or an intelligent human, or even being artistically relevant. Because the other people who do artistically or want to counter this don't make artistically relevant stuff. So commies think anyone who is connected to their roots must be therefore artistically irrelevant. While recent outliers like Kantara, Bahubali and Hanuman Kind's Run It Up have challenged this narrative, they remain exceptions in a landscape dominated by a cultural disconnect. Bengal, once a fountainhead of refined cinema and music, has in recent decades fallen behind both in terms of representation and quality. Conversely, pro-Bharatiya content, despite its good intentions, more often than not suffers from underwhelming production values and limited cultural impact. And yeah, they are often a joke. With Kal Bhairav Ashtakam Vigilance, I aim to change that by telling an original story rooted in Vanga's spirit with high production value, musical sophistication and a message that resonates with every generation. The vision. The music video will feature a high-octane narrative centered around Bengal's martial and spiritual heritage. While the storyline remains under wraps to avoid spoilers, I can share this. It explores the theme of a particular social injustice and the rise of Bhairava sadhakas and sadhikas in response, who take matters into their own hands. The aesthetics will evoke the energy and visual depth of Kantara, with vigilante characters inspired by Bharatiya martial arts and the Sang's efforts in promoting physical discipline and self-defense. The soundscape draws from Bengal's folk traditions while pushing boundaries with rap, classical music, and epic orchestration. Collaborators: the project features an impressive lineup of Eastern India's emerging musical talent. Shomayun Shortcut, Spill Freak, a rapper, one of Bengal's most powerful voices in Bangla rap, infamous for fearlessly addressing the plight of Bangladeshi Hindus through his music and social media posts. Swarnabha Gupta, a gifted guitarist who blends Hindustani classical with rock and is a committed Shakta in personal life. Vocalists are myself, Saurabh Dash, and the Kormokar brothers, Moinak and Mallar Kormokar, who make up the popular composer and vocalist duo called Mac Mallar. Moinak's nickname is Mac because apparently no one in Mumbai can pronounce Moinak. The creative minds behind blockbuster Durga Puja hits like Ailo Mabarite, featuring Antara Nondi, and Duma Ashe Notun Saje featuring Ankita Bhattacharya. I've also had the pleasure of programming and arranging music for both those songs. Execution and team. I am overseeing the story, screenplay, concept, and full music production. The project is being executed in collaboration with a talented group of martial artists, performers, and film professionals, including a director, line producer, and cinematographer, all chosen for their commitment, creativity, and fresh perspectives rather than celebrity status. Their names will be revealed closer to the video release to avoid professional backlash, because right now no one must know they are involved in this project. But rest assured, they are highly devoted to the vision. A fun anecdote that reflects the spirit of this project. During our first budget meeting, our line producer's phone rang, and to my surprise, his ringtone was the Kal Bhairavashtakam by Agam Agarwal. I assumed he liked the musicality of the Sotram from listening to our draft version, and therefore put up a more famous version as his ringtone, but I was wrong. It had been his ringtone for over 4 years. He even raised concerns about how the Stotram unfolds as the background of some specific story beats that he felt are disrespectful to Kal Bhairav on hearing it for the first time, and only after a deep discussion with me and finding out the full context of the story did he come on board in the project, a testament to the sincerity and integrity driving this endeavor. Join the movement. This is more than a music video, it's a cultural statement from Vanga for Bharat. Your support will help bring to life a bold artistic vision that seeks to reclaim and reimagine what it means to be rooted in Bharatiya culture in the modern world, with excellence, depth, and resonance. Excellence, guys. Let's make history together. Support Kal Bhairavashtakam vigilance. And the budget breakdown is here for people who want to donate. The link is there in my community tab, or you can just Google if you do want to donate. I will keep sharing this from time to time, of course. Kal Bhairavashtakam vigilance on keto.org. Okay. Let me check some comments now and then we'll go offline. Tatvik is saying, Abhishek Roy is saying, ভাই अचानक কি করে বেঙ্গলে এত কাস্ট টাক্স চলে আসলো আর কত রিজার্ভেশন লাগে পড়াশোনায় মন দেও কাস্ট করে লাভ নেই অনেক আপার কাস্ট পার্টিশনে খালি হাত এসেছে ইন্ডিয়াতে ইউসি পার্টিশনের পরও নিজের হার্ডে রাইজ করেছে তোমরা শুধু রিজার্ভেশন লাগে হার্ডওয়ার্ক করো কেন দেব না তোরা শুধু এই কাস্ট সেন্সাস করে 50% সিলিংটাও ব্রেক করতে চাস পড়াশোনার নাম নেয় ফ্রি লাগে শুধু I am non-Brahmin, my family come from partition, we started from nothing, I did BTech from NIT, now doing MTech from IIT. If we can, why can so-called SX, ST, OBC? Listen to the full live stream, then you'll understand. I can't address this dumb fuckery right now. What does Vanga mean here? Yes, Bengal. CPM, Ashtam Bamfront Sarkar, Gurche to Ajker Bond. Oh. Start pinning the link in chat box from now on. Oh yeah, why didn't I do it? Yeah. तो आज के बाद से करना पड़ेगा. How much will keto take? Keto will take 3%. That's their gateway free. Now keto is saying that's not. We don't have any official platform fee. Okay, so officially keto is not taking a single penny. Their payment gateway charge is 3% and GST of 18% on the 3%. So I have done the math. It's about, so if at all I reach the complete goal of 3.5 lakh rupees, I will, 13,000 rupees will be just waste from my POV. And by the way, NRIs can't really, how much will Nirmala Tai take? That about 1,1200 rupees GST from the payment gateway, okay? So NRIs can't apparently donate to keto, although Google says that Keto can. I am about to talk to their representatives as well. But they are saying that unless they donate to some NGO, the NRIs, then they can, because only the NGOs have some problems these days because of FCRA license and stuff, because of so much of conversion money coming here. But this is my GPay or UPI account and stuff, where you all can donate if you want to as NRIs, even as NRIs, without having to go through Keto. This is the GPay link, and for some reason UPI themselves generated this UPI ID, and it's called OKICICI. That's not my real UPI ID. My actual UPI ID is what's given in the description box. My bank account is in HDFC Bank, but Google Pay decided maybe it's in ICICI. I don't know what the fuck up is there. But if you just scan this, it does come to me only. I have checked that. It does not go to some other people. That's the fun part. What other thing I wanted to mention? Yeah, and so far I have collected about 15 or 18,000 rupees through GPay donations, and about 12,000 rupees on Keto. It's about only 24 hours of fundraising, so I think I'm pretty hopeful. তুমি একটা আলাদা ব্যাংক অ্যাকাউন্ট খুলে ডোনেশন নিলে না কেন? It didn't cross my mind. Why should I? Best of luck for your project. Thank you, Gaurav. Vanga is a bit confusing. I'm a Sandeep Reddy Vanga. Can choose a different. No. I'm saying Bharat, therefore Vanga. We'll definitely make a small contribution for this yagya. Thank you. SCST ra kore, that's not a number. Onek bamun ache EWSA beshi ashbe na. Donation link, please. I guess I just showed you, by the way, but the donation link from Keto is here. Or you can donate through GPay. But if you do donate through GPay, mention that it's for the Kalbhairav Ashtakam project, because otherwise I get many payments from other places as well. Or I don't know if you just want to support the channel, etc. So I need to know that this particular donation was for Kalbhairav Ashtakam. And also, if you want to remain anonymous, let me know that as well, because I intend to give credits to all these people, or at least mention their names when the video does happen. The highest individual donors will be called executive producer. They will get executive producer credits in the video. So far, the highest single donation was from one person who doesn't want to be named, and from another woman. That's the second highest individual donation. So they are. Oh, now the guy who donated the highest amount doesn't want recognition because he's doing it for dharma. So he'll not get executive producer credits because he doesn't want to. Wait, let me give you the link. This is the link, and I will put this up in the description box as well. Okay, then let's go offline now. And tonight I plan to do another live stream, audience interaction, some amount of audience interaction, but I will talk about this project as well separately, and we will get to some live reactions stuff that we need to. What's the stream about? Ninar, oh my god, he joined so late. Check it out from the beginning, you'll love it. This was one of our better ones, more constructive ones about caste. It's about one Ambedkarite author who talks about caste, finally critiquing the fuck out of Bengali upper caste commies as well. Okay then, thanks for joining the live stream, guys. See you at around 12. Bye bye, good night.